Warning.
Okay, I'm reloaded. Yeah. Say
2015
and the
man.
homie Cell Block.
What up?
Hey, yo, Sal, showtime, man.
What up, Sal?
Time to go back in, right?
Big talk for you.
Season 5 reloaded.
Let's
Come on.
get it.
Helping our people come up out of the system, understanding let you stand as a winner, not as a victim. You got those who rejected the truth, Father forgive them. But if you want it, you know the place for knowledge and wisdom is.
Where's that, Zay?
Debate talk for you, season 5 reloaded, call in and give us your view. Yeah, it's debate talk for you. It's debate talk for you.
Back at it like we never left. Gotta see, I see the devil left. Another level, yes. Feel like a rotated metal F. Cause my bars declare war with the treble clef. Helping our people come up out of their slumber, awaken them from the dead. They like zombies walking among us, and also removing that what encumbers, making them dumber. And prayerfully this will let the light shine through like in summer. Amazing, spread the gospel and also acts of apostles, and seemingly make me meaner demeanor coming off hostile. I growl at them. Competitors go with credit, verbal beheaded, speaking Semitic, apologetic. Let us reason. Should we believe in the mighty Yah? Was guarding the beat literal or merely a mirage? Join the forum, come with your doctrine and let's expose it. Debate talk for you, season 5, we reloaded.
Helping our people come up out of the system, understanding let you stand as a winner, not as a victim. You got those who rejected the truth, Father forgive them. But if you want it, you know the place for knowledge and wisdom is. Debate talk for you, season 5 reloaded, call in and give us your view. Yeah, it's debate talk for you. It's debate talk for you. Backing down is not an option. We're here to conquer this false doctrine. You confident and hopping the lions, then we all watching. The enemy's plotting, peep the wicked schemes she's concocting. The Lord is warning us, better open up when he's knocking. We gotta fight this war with the art of intelligence. Heaven sent messages to us, they asking where's the evidence. Trying to use science to claim he don't exist is prevalent. Challenge what they can't prove and they act like it's irrelevant. We don't take heed to cunningly devise fables. You wanna discuss it, come and sit at the round table. Biblical scholarship, history, politics, and archaeology. We teach like professors at colleges. The word is of no pride in interpretation. Every man will try to make his point with great determination. Our job is to plant and water, then wait for germination. My only purpose is to worship God and serve the nation. Helping our people come up out of the system, understanding let you stand as a winner, not as a victim. You got those who rejected the truth, Father forgive them. But if you want it, you know the place for knowledge and wisdom is. Debate talk for you, season 5 reloaded, call in and give us your view. Yeah, it's debate talk for you. It's debate talk for you. Helping our people come up out of the system, understanding let you stand as a winner, not as a victim. You got those who rejected the truth, Father forgive them. But if you want it, you know the place for knowledge and wisdom is. Debate talk for you, season 5 reloaded, call in and give us your view. Yeah, it's debate talk for you. It's debate talk for you.
Welcome to the planets of the beats. The Beat Talking Radio.
Peace and blessings, family. This is your good, humble brother, Basim, representing the DMV area. And when I'm not holding down my mid-level position in corporate America, I'm tuned into the most respected debate show on the globe. That's Debate Talk for You with the esteemed host, Sal Showtime.
Grace and peace, Hebrews and Shebrews. It's your brother Mikael Ben Yisrael coming at you from the walls of Jericho, biblical and historical studies. Checking out my man Sal Showtime, who got the #1 debate show in the nation, Debate Talk for You in the Lion's Den. Check it out, you will not be disappointed. One thing's for sure, the spirit of truth does flow through these airwaves. So with that, I'd like to say shalom, shalom. All praises to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yisrael, and the Mashiach, Jesus the Christ. Peace.
All praises, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe. This is Moreh Yeshiah of Moreh Torah in Atlanta. And if I'm not reading my Torah or suplexing some false deity, I'm listening to my man, Sal Showtime, and Debate Talk for You Radio. Beautiful. Keep doing the good work, brother, bringing forth the information and spreading that love.
Yo, Shalom. Call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. It's Brother Chief Priest Alazar Bun Lawyer, a.k.a. the Gorilla Hebrew, representing Exodus 17:15, a.k.a. the sect of the Sakari. And you know where I'm at. Every Friday, the Lion's Den with Sal Showtime on Debate Talk for You. You can catch me on there often, ripping somebody's head off, tearing down some false doctrine. Big shout out to all of the Debate Talk for You family and listeners and supporters out there. You know, keep supporting the movement. And, you know, beautiful edification is getting put out to the masses right now. So again, you know, shalom and call halal Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai.
You don't want to miss the best show via internet, Debate Talk for You Radio. We have the best debates in the world. We have the best special guests to present the information to the masses out there. So make sure you tune in every Thursday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Debate Talk for You. The number is 646-716-7320. If you want to tune in via phone or via Skype, once again, that number is 646-716-7320. Save it to your cell phone. Let people know that Debate Talk for You is official. Check us out.
Hi, this is Tyrone Thompson, host of the Blog Talk Radio broadcast, Talk Real Solutions. Please tune in and listen to all of our shows 7 nights a week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At Talk Real Solutions, we cover a variety of topics to ensure we speak about what may be needed in our community at any time. Talk Real Solutions is the hottest blog talk radio show going on right now. You can listen to our broadcast at www.blogtalkradio.com/Talk Real Solutions or visit our website at www.talkrealsolutions.com. Also like our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Talk Real Solutions. You can call in at any time during the show and add to the conversation and offer your solutions at 1-858-357-8453. That's 1-858-357-8453. Because at Talk Real Solutions, we want to make sure you have a chance to talk real solutions.
This is Renald Francoeur representing from Atlanta, Georgia. And when I'm not busy in the studio, I'm checking out Debate Talk for You Radio. Keep up the great work, Sal Showtime.
You are now inside the Lion's Den. Welcome to Debate Talk for You Radio.
Peace, shalom, hotep, and greetings to you all. First and foremost, I want to say much love and respect and honor to Brother Sal for giving me the opportunity to post an ad on his show. I'm a graphic designer who goes by 2 names, and those names are Etheric Designs and Epic Designs. Now, these names are spelled differently from what you would think by the sound of them. Etheric is spelled Etheric. Designs with a Z, as in Dezigns. For Epic Designs, there will be EPIKDEZIGNS. The works I mainly deal with are album covers, ebook covers, flyers, posters, and Vexel logos. I really don't like to put a limit on what it is I can do. So if I listed something that you do not have in mind, you can always contact me via Facebook, which will be at John Etheric Designs Washington, spelled as I stated before. Or you can email me directly, which is at epicdesigns@gmail.com. Remember, Epic is spelled EPIKDEZIGNS @gmail.com, and we can discuss whatever crazy idea you may have, a unique idea you may have, or just simply different idea you may have that I have not listed. And I look forward to talking to you. Peace.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another show. You're now listening to Season 5 of Debate Talk for You Radio. Of course, I'm your host, Sal Showtime, and we are back with another classic show for you guys. Get your pen and pads ready. Once again, we're going to have a classic show for you guys. My special guest is standing by. And, of course, shout out to all those people that call in 10 minutes, 15 minutes ahead of time. That's waiting patiently for Debate Talk for You to come on the air. I appreciate the dedicated listeners out there of Debate Talk for You Radio. Of course, shout out to all the international listeners out there that's checking out the show. And we actually have people listening to the show in the morning, early in the morning overseas. So for those people that's actually waking up, but it's a morning show for you guys, I appreciate you checking out Debate Talk for You. And, of course, everybody on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that's checking out the show and promoting the show themselves, I appreciate you being in attendance live right now, checking out Debate Talk for You Radio. Tonight's show is entitled Understanding Deuteronomy 28. Once again, tonight's show is entitled Understanding Deuteronomy 28. If it's your first time listening to Debate Talk for You, this is the show where you, the listening audience, can call in with your questions and your comments by dialing that number, 646-716-7320. You can call in at any given time. Just press number 1, and when we get to the public Q&A segment of the show, we can add you in live, and you can ask your questions and say your comments, what you think about the lesson. My special guest is standing by. I'm going to introduce him in a few minutes, but, of course, I got to go through a few brief announcements. As usual, send me an email at debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. That's debate talk, the number 4, and the letter U, @gmail.com. Go to facebook.com/debate talk for you. That's facebook.com/debate talk for you. You can download the show via iTunes, everybody. Go to the podcast section and type in the search box Debate Talk, the number 4, and the letter U, and you'll see the show pop up absolutely free. The great thing about the iTunes podcast, you can check out Season 1 all the way up to Season 5 of Debate Talk for You. And another thing, once the show is over, it automatically uploads to your tablet, your PC, your iPod, whatever you have, the iTunes podcast linked right there on your system. So never miss another episode of Debate Talk for You. Again, I highly recommend that you go to the iTunes podcast and type in the search box Debate Talk for You. It's absolutely free. Go to Instagram.com/Debate Talk for You. Of course, we have some videos up on YouTube. Go to YouTube.com/Debate Talk for You. Of course, we're on Twitter at Showtime DT4U. That's Showtime. D as in David, T as in Tom, the number 4, and the letter U. Help support the show. Send your donations through PayPal. Go to www.paypal.com and use the email donations at debatetalkforyou.com. That's donations with the S at the end at debatetalkforyou.com. Your continued support is appreciated, no matter the amount, whether it be $1, $5, $10, or more. Remember, you are making it all happen, and you're keeping us on the air. Sign up for Blog Talk Radio. It's absolutely free. Never miss another episode. Once you sign up, type in the search box Debate Talk for You, and you will automatically be notified via email and smartphone of all upcoming shows. We want to hear from you, the listening audience. Send in your audio shout-out. All you need is a voice recorder, which you can find on any smartphone. Say your name, where you're from, what you like about the show. When you're done, send it to the email, debatetalkforyou@gmail.com, and I will play it live for all to hear. Show your love and send your audio shout-out today. Some of you heard some of the shout-outs earlier during the course of the show, and we love hearing from the people out there. So, again, if you want to send your audio shout-out, the sooner you send it, the sooner we'll play it. Send it to the email, debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. For a very small fee, we can advertise your business, live event, website, etc. right here on Debate Talk for You Radio. We have thousands of listeners that tune in all across the globe, so if you want to gain some more exposure for affordable costs, send me an email at debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. Trust me, no one else will allow you to advertise for the low cost that I will offer you guys. There's people out there advertising shows for hundreds of dollars. My show is nowhere near hundreds of dollars. You know, I like to work with the people and make it affordable. So definitely, if you want to advertise live at Debate Talk for You, send me an email and we can give you the full details. In order for Debate Talk for You to expand, we need each and every listener to subscribe to the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and even the official Blog Talk page. We love the fact that you listen to the show. However, we need your subscription.
listen. We need you to show the world that we have a strong and loyal following. Help take this show to the next level and be a loyal follower of Debate Talk for You Radio. Only you can keep us relevant. Some upcoming shows on Debate Talk for You. You can write this down. This is a schedule for this week on Debate Talk for You Radio. We have a show Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. My special guest will be Lester Samuel and Awarded Swordsman. They're going to be here live, and they're going to bring forth a lesson to the people out there. And the title of the lesson, Esau, the so-called white man. Already sounds controversial, huh? Esau, the so-called white man. So make sure you tune into Debate Talk for You tomorrow, Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, this is the show where you can call in and, dispute whatever you want to dispute, or if you have any questions or comments, you can call in. The number is 646-716-7320. Let your voice be heard. It's all about the people being edified and getting answers to their questions on Debate Talk for You Radio. Then the following day, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to have a show. For those that are aware, we have a competition going on between TRS Carbon Radio. They actually challenged Debate Talk for You to a debate for the month of March. As we already know, the month of March is almost up. And so far, we only had 2 debates. And, if you haven't known, basically we are 2-0 right now. So basically it's supposed to be 2 more debates. And technically, if one more debate, if we, win, I mean, I guess we take the title. You know what I mean? So we're definitely having fun with it. Again, it's going to be Debate Talk for You versus TRS Carbon Radio. We're going to have a special segment this Thursday, though, called Radio Takeover, Debate Talk for You versus TRS Carbon Radio 2-0. We're going to have some fun with it. We're going to have my special guest, Mikael, and Awarded Swordsman. And shout out to those brothers for representing Debate Talk for You during this particular competition between Debate Talk for You and Carbon Radio. And they did an excellent job representing the brand. I mean, I know on their forum, and we're going to discuss that more this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to hear from the special guest. We're also going to hear from the creator of Carbon Radio, Supreme, a.k.a. Poverty, as well as other TRS champion debaters. So far it's supposed to be 1 month of debates, like I said, 4 weeks. But, again, if we take one more, I mean, we basically, represented. So make sure you guys tune in this Thursday. And I believe my brother Zadok's supposed to be stepping up next as far as representing Debate Talk for You on their forum, TRS Carbon Radio. So you don't want to miss this Thursday's show to hear from, both brands. This is a brand versus brand, UK versus US competition. This is the first time we're actually doing this thing, and it's actually, been fun. So make sure you tune in this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Debate Talk for You Radio. And then Friday at 8 p.m. we have a show with special guest Brother Josh from Absolute Bible Truth, and the title of that class will be, What Was the Torah Before Moses? What was the Torah before Moses? Again, you want to tune in to Debate Talk for You Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday right here live. And just to let you guys know, Season 6 will begin Friday, September 11th. So make sure you guys write that down. Friday, September 11th, we're going to begin Season 6. We usually take a break between, May, the summertime part of the show, and then we come back in the fall. Actually, we're going to probably end either mid-April or at the end of April, Season 5 of Debate Talk for You. I'm going to let you guys know for sure in the upcoming weeks. And we may do a summer special in July. We usually try to do 1-2 weeks of shows in July for the people out there that's, want to hear some more great content of Debate Talk for You, the dedicated people out there. So make sure you write that down. All right, so let's get this show started, guys. I know you guys can't wait to hear this lesson. Again, you know the number, 646-716-7320. If you're listening on Facebook, do me a favor, share to your personal page and let people know that Debate Talk for You is live on the air. And make sure you attach that number, 646-716-7320. You can listen via phone, via Skype, or by pressing play on social media. So let me introduce my special guest. Once again, he's been teaching on the show. He had 2 lessons so far. We had a lot of great responses from the people out there. And he is back to present another great edifying lesson to the masses, understanding Deuteronomy 28. This is Moreh Yeshiah Yisrael. Welcome to the show, my brother. Appreciate you being here live.
Hey, shalom. Can I be heard?
Loud and clear, my brother. Loud and clear. Anything you want to say to the people before we begin, or a brief bio? We can start that way. Go ahead.
Giving honor and praise to Yah, the creator and the maker of heaven and earth, the most high power, the one who judges and is not judged, the one who sees all and is not seen. We're speaking about the one who created, as it says in the book of Isaiah, Quotzei Ha'aretz, in the Hebrew meaning the ends of the earth. That's whom we're speaking of. So that way there won't be no misunderstanding. When he introduced himself to Bnei Yisrael, or to the children of Israel. Namely, in this part I'm speaking about in the book of Exodus, he stated that he is Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the Most High, Eloheka, your God, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim, out of the house of bondage. So the introduction that the Most High gave, as we see in Exodus 20, right there lets it be known something very emphatic. His name, his attribute, who he's talking to, and what he did for you. So that right there is very important. On the human level, I started in a camp called Kosher Erit, an Old Testament Tanakh-based camp still located in the Bronx. And from there went to a place still located in Brooklyn called B'nai Adat, and then from there a place in Queens, which moved south in the, by the name of Hashaba Yisrael. And so that's the orientation of me coming into the understanding of being of an Israelite.
Once again, it's a highly respected Moreh, and definitely, again, for the new listeners out there, you can press number 1 when you get a chance. And we already have people pressing number 1 already in advance. For the new listeners out there, you can press number 1 now, but just stand by for the public Q&A because we go in order and take your questions. So if you know you're going to have a question, feel free to call in and press the number 1 and stand by. Just press it one time, and we'll get to you guys later on. All right, so let's begin the lesson. Moreh Yeshiah, take it away, brother.
Okay, once again, as stated, giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. Now, I noticed last week when I did the presentation, the sound quality wasn't necessarily the best. So what I did was I organized it to where the phone would sound a whole lot clearer and a whole lot better. Now, to sit there and talk about this subject matter from its inception, I would like to go, brothers and sisters, into a book that I have. Okay, the scriptures. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And we're going to start in verse 14, not 15, like, no offense intended, like many do, but we're going to start in verse 14 so that way we can gain an understanding about something. And it says the following: And thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. So that right there lets it be known emphatically that the Most High is dealing with a particular people, and he is a particular El, or that is to say a particular God, if you want to use the English terminology. So let it be noted and understood that he gave this particular people, the descendants of Jacob, a name called Israel, said in the Hebrew as Yisrael. Now, when you say in the Hebrew word Yisrael, Yod Sin Resh Aleph Lamed, what you're saying is two different Hebrew words composed to one, Yisra and El. Yisra coming from the Hebrew root word Sarah, which means to prevail or to contend, and then the next word being El. So El coming from the Hebrew root word Ayil, which means might or power. Now, when we go in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, you will see that the same Hebrew word El is used once it comes down when it says, you shall have no power in your hand, or there shall be no might in the power of your hand. That word El is also used in there. When you go into the book of Exodus, chapter 21 and chapter 22, when it says you should not revile the gods, which is translated in many versions as saying you should not revile the judges, it says that word Elohim in the Hebrew. And what that signifies is meaning the mighty ones or the ones who have power. So let that be noted and understood. So as many of the brothers who are 5%ers will come and sit there and state the Israelites, you know, Psalms 82 says, I said you are gods and all ye sons of the Most High. Very true. You understand that it also says, yet you shall fall like one of the princes. You see, so we're not El Elyon, not the Most High God, but yet we are still in that light the sons of the Most High, or that is to say lowercase gods in that aspect in the issue of what Psalm is talking about. So being that is the case, when you go to Leviticus 19 in this introduction right here, it says that the Most High is holy, so we, Israel, are to be holy. That is the image that Genesis 1:26 and 1:27 is talking about. So that way we can sit there and gain some understanding concerning that particular aspect. Now, if we will, I like to sit there and go into a secular source and then build up the presentation from that point. I have a book entitled Egypt, Canaan, and Israel in Ancient Times. Now, I want to go in this particular version in page 100, and let's move on from this particular part right here, so that way we can see the history of Israel biblically and externally, okay? let's go, if you will, brothers and sisters, to the book of Genesis, chapter 12. We're going to start in chapter 12, verse 3. And this is the portion that the Most High gave to Abraham, right? It says, "And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." So the seed that Abraham is being spoken of, that will be blessed. Because when it says in him, it's talking about through his seed line, about being blessed. That is being the children of Israel. So now that right there is one of the key points I wanted to let it be known. Now I'm going to read a segment out of this book here entitled Egypt, Canaan, and Israel in Ancient Times. And on page 100 of this, here is something that we read that's very interesting. We're going to connect the dots, Most High bless. It says this: "The Brooklyn Museum Papyrus and other brief notices passed in review in the last chapter of this book demonstrate clearly the presence in Egypt during the 12th and 13th dynasties, that is to say the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, of a sizable Asiatic population of servile status, presumably brought back as a result of foreign wars. Although there is nothing to suggest that this population was any larger in the Eastern Delta than elsewhere, it is not unreasonable to suppose that with the gradual weakening of the royal authority, the Delta defenses were allowed to lapse, and thus groups of transhumans found it easy to cross the frontier and settle in Lower Egypt." Now, that right there is talking about the people who were called the Asiatics. Now, if you're familiar anything in reference with Egypt, you would know that there was two different names, that is political names, that the Egyptians people gave to the people that came from the Levant. One of those is the Amu, A-A-N-U, and the other one is the Setyu, S-E-T-Y-U. We went over that last month in January 29th, in which it spoke about the Asiatic presence in Egypt. So the point in going to Genesis 12 and then reading that goes to show you that anybody who's familiar with Dynasty 12 and 13, the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, is when they had their best literature. That's when they was out there doing what they was doing in the Sinai. That's when they was able to sit there under Senusret, were able to conquer the Cushites, and so forth and so on. So that just goes to show you that when Abraham and his seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Now, when the children of Israel was leaving out of that land, we see good and well, such as we read in other records, in addition with the scriptures concerning what you refer to as the Magifot, or the plagues that came upon Egypt. Now, I want to sit there and go, brothers and sisters, and read a particular reference concerning that particular type of subject, if we will. And that comes from, brothers and sisters, a documentation that is referred to by many as the Apura Papyrus. That is spelled as, you can look it up yourself, that is spelled as I-P-U-W-E-R. So that way people can gain an understanding of where I'm presenting my case and from the sources in which I'm talking about. Part of it states as follows: "The river is blood, men are not able to drink from it," correlating with the plagues that you see of right there in the book of Exodus. "Behold, the land has no light," correlating with the plague of darkness that you see of in the book of Exodus. Another part of the papyrus reads as follows: "Behold, the trees are without bearing fruit. Behold, that which was gone has now not been seen," correlating exactly when you read about the plague of hail that came upon and over the branches were stripped of their fruit. So that right there is just part of, for time purposes, part of what you would call the Apura Papyrus and exactly what happened with that situation. Another part reads as follows: "Behold, female slaves are loose with their mouths. Behold, female slaves have been given gold, silver, lapis lazuli." So when you go and correlate it from what we just read, which is still actually online, under the Apura Papyrus, you see exactly what those female slaves were. Now, if your own time, you can look up, as we stated before, the Brooklyn Papyrus with the issue of Senetisi and Sobekotep III of the 13th dynasty. Remember, we just read about the Asiatic presence in this book here entitled Egypt, Canaan, and Israel in Ancient Times. We just read about the Asiatic presence in the land of Egypt. So part of those Asiatic people was the Moreh Yeshiah. So as we see, when the children of Israel left, unfortunately with some brothers and sisters who are into the Kemetic science, they try to sit there and state in Exodus 11 when it says, "They shall ask of every man and let every woman ask if her neighbor Jews of silver and Jews of gold, they will attempt to sit there and say, okay, the Israelites were stealing. No, the Israelites were not stealing. They was getting, in today's terminology, what you call reparations for being enslaved. Now, just sit there and let that be noted and understood. Another thing I wanted to sit there and point out concerning this particular subject is I have a book here in correlation. It is entitled Egypt of the Pharaohs. I like to use external sources for a reason, by the famous, mind you, Sir Alan Gardiner. Now, he's respected by some of the big hot shots inside of that Egyptology and Egyptian history stuff. Sir Alan Gardiner. Now, I'm going to sit there and read part of this book here on page 131 in this book entitled Egypt of the Pharaohs. So that way we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter, okay? And it says as follows. This, however, is not an unsuitable place in which to summarize the dealings of Egypt with its northeastern neighbors throughout Dynasty 12. The prophecy of Nefertiti had emphasized even more strongly than the similar compositions have quoted in the incursions of the Asiatics into the Delta. So this right here, now if you understand what it says about the prophecy in Nefertiti, that goes back to the Pharaoh Amenemhat the first of Dynasty 12. Now in history, we went over this in January 29th, in which he built what you call the walls of the prince to keep out from the Delta the Asiatic people that was in there. So now by the time the children of Israel were being enslaved, that's how that economy over there became big. They was enslaved in the land of Egypt. Now let's go and see the biblical record so we can see something of importance, if we will, okay? Let's go into the book of Exodus chapter 1. So that way we can understand exactly where we're coming from with this. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 1. Let's go into verse 11. Therefore they that set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. Now, let's understand something. In the ancient Egyptian, what they refer to that as Pithom is the Hebrew transliteration for what they refer to as Per Atum, which means the place or the city of Atum, which is one of their Egyptian gods. Okay? When it says here Ramses, that right there is what you would call an acronym. Acronism, that is. And what an acronism is, for instance, is like saying, I'm in New York City. But if I were to sit there and write a book about New Amsterdam, when the British was running it, I'm still talking about the exact same place, but there's a different time. So when it says Ramses right there in the book of Exodus 1:13, it is at that day and time speaking about the place that was then called Ramses, which in history prior to that was called at one time the land of Rawati. Another time it was called Pero Nefer. Another time it was called afterward when the Greeks had controlled the city of Avaris. Now, a lot of times you have people who want to sit there and discredit the Exodus by saying, oh, we haven't found anything stating that there was any Hebrews in the land of Egypt, even though we just read it in Sir Alan Gardiner's book. But there are some people who will sit there and say, well, we haven't seen it, and so forth and so on. And when you look at their sources and ask them, well, what references are you speaking of, the books that they're talking about, no offense intended, for their evidence dates back to the 1950s, dates back to the 1960s, and dates back to the 1970s. But do you realize how much was found, let's say, in what you call the 1990s and afterward, when what they had, the Arab people that was in the land of Egypt was blocking a lot of people to excavate certain sites. So that's why when you look at the timeline of when things was found, you will see certain books among certain Egyptologists themselves are not coinciding because they wasn't allowed to always go and dig up certain places at certain times. So that's why in all thy getting, get understanding. Now, another thing to point out, brothers and sisters, is this part right here. It says, going on in verse 12, but the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter. Pay attention, brothers and sisters. It says what in verse 14? And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, here we go, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. Who can we read of in history that was working in the field and being made to serve with bricks, and whose lives was made bitter? in the land of Egypt. I'm getting to the point where some brothers and sisters might know where I'm going, because when we get to Deuteronomy 28 in the next hour of this presentation, this verse becomes important, because Yah said that he will send you back into the land, or he will send you back into Egypt again in ships. So let's see exactly what Israelites were thinking about when they heard the word Egypt. Let's go back to verse 14. All right? It says this, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, and mortar, and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. And their service, wherein they were made them to serve, was with rigor. Do you know what rigor is? That comes from the Hebrew word hofrek, or ofrek, which basically means hardening, bitter, rigor, unhappiness, sorrowful, depressing. Okay? Let's move on. It says, and the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. The name of one was Shifra, and the name of the other Pu'ah. Now, when you go in your own time, you find that same word Shifra as a name of one of the women that was part of the slaves that was in the Brooklyn Papyrus 35.1446. You see that same exact name, Shifra. Let's move on, all right? And it says this. And he said, when you do the service of the midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, and if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Now, how can we relate that part of the Israelite oppression in Egypt then to Israel going back into Egypt by way of ships? When they sit there and tell sisters, well, you may not be able to carry full term, so you may as well just take your womb out, and, well, that's just what it is. And don't tell me they don't, because they told, may she rest in peace, they told my mother that. Well, if you're not going to be able to carry children, you may as well just sit there and take your womb out. So I know verbatim, that's exactly what they tell certain women of our own people, because that's what they told the woman who gave birth to me. You understand? So now, getting back to this point right here, it says what? When you do the office of the midwife to the Hebrew women. Now, if you don't know what a midwife is, watch the beginning of Roots, where the lady, I forget her government name, I forget her English name, but she was playing Kunta's mother in there. She's in the other movies, Cicely Tyson, that's her name. Well, she was playing the mother of Kunta, and you see all the elder women that was around her when she was giving birth. Those would be the midwives. It's only in this society in the Western Hemisphere, not trying to sound harsh, where they have the women laying down, going against gravity, giving birth, where a man who's an obstetrician looking at being the first one to see another man's son or another man's daughter. No. The Hebrew way of life, as it's shown right here in the book of Exodus, it has it to where the women were around the woman, not a man looking at another man's wife as she's giving birth. Okay, so that's another subject, but let's move on. It says what? If it's a son, then you shall kill him. But if it's a daughter, she shall stay alive. When you go, brothers and sisters, into the Hebrew record in Jeremiah, for instance, what does it say about the nations in the house of Israel? It says they have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people, saying shalom, shalom, what ain't shalom, saying peace, peace, and there is no peace. So it says they have healed the hurt of the daughter of Israel by saying peace, peace, where there is no peace. That's exactly what's going on today, too, if you understand what's going on. Don't worry about it. We're shooting black guys. We're not really trying to target the black women. Y'all just keep on going to school, get your degrees, because it's going to be better for you in the end. And if you deny it, I could take you back to my economics notes when I was in high school, back in the 1997, 1996, when he said, in the future, the people among the black community who's going to be able to hold it down and be prosperous is the black woman, because they don't sit there and see the black male doing such and such. When you see a son, you shall kill him, and you shall leave the daughters alive. And some sisters, not to bash on sisters, they will sit there and say, well, if I got this degree, and if I made it here, how come he can't make it? Because the opportunities given by those, quote-unquote, the powers that be, are not given to the male as it is given to the female. That's why. So when you're going into a certain job situation as a female or as a male, they judge you based upon that. That's why they ask you gender how many times if you want to be taking the job application. You understand? So the roles have been set like that for a reason. Many of us, I am certain, have read or been familiar with the Willie Lynch concept. Now, many argue there was no person named Willie Lynch in history. Okay, granted, maybe there was no person named Willie Lynch in history, but the concept sure is true. And if you see exactly what went on and what goes on, that's exactly what happened. So when you read in there and they call it, I'm going to keep the language clean, Negro, okay, I'm going to keep the language clean, the Negro Family Marriage Unit. You have it to where you take the female, but you make sure she's pregnant, but you kill the male in front of her so she can sit there and instill that fear into her son. And or she will sit there and instill the psychological state of independence toward her daughter, so where she feel, well, I don't need a man because he wasn't there to protect me. And if you think that the society does not push that, all you got to do is watch that movie that, I'm sorry I forget the name of it, but it's a movie that has the rapper Ludacris in it, and he played a thief or a housebreaker. You understand what I'm saying? And the cops in that same movie accosted or disrespected one of the women inside of that movie. And the black male, who was her husband, just had to sit there and watch this cop grope his wife. We're going to read about that later on in the next hour. Thou shalt be taught the wife, and another man shall lie with her. So we're going to sit back and see, brothers and sisters, within the next hour after this intro, what we're talking about and why we say Deuteronomy 28, verse 68 is speaking about us over here in the Western Hemisphere to a great extent. Now, getting back into this particular portion right here, it says what? Kill the males, leave the daughters alive. When you study history and you see about how they used to raid black towns after emancipation was given, and the people in the black community used to sit there and run from place to place and so forth and so on, who did they sit there and prefer to have inside of their houses when they were sitting there and saving the Negroes from being lynched by the lynch mobs? They preferred to have the females in there. So let that be noted and understood. As the brother Moreh Yeshiah Yisrael and others pointed out, when the ancient Egyptians, let's understand certain things about the culture, when they went to war against their enemies, they would sit there, and if the person to a great extent was uncircumcised, they would sit there and castrate that person. So let that be noted and understood. Then when you take it to that book written and audited, that is to say, or edited, that is to say by the European guy Ralph Ginsburg, entitled 100 Years of Lynchings, who did they castrate when they hung them up there? The people who were of the same house of Israel that was scattered to the Western Hemisphere. So we're going to sit there and, Father bless, show many correlations as much as possible to let it be noted and understood why we say that we are the same people that this book of Exodus right here is talking about. You see, so let's understand something else. Brothers and sisters, going on in this history right here in Exodus. Let's move on. It says this: but the midwives feared the Most High, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, now let's go understand something. Pharaoh has two different meanings in two different languages. Okay, Parah in ancient Egyptian meant mighty house. And that was not a name applied to a person until like dynasty of the Middle Kingdom. Okay, so before that, like in the Old Kingdom, or what they call, after that, what they call the first intermediate period in Egyptian history, Parah simply means mighty house. But in the New Kingdom, in the Middle Kingdom of Egypt, that we have just read of in about Dynasty 12 and so forth and so on, that's when the pharaohs or the kings, that is, decided to say, I am actually that Parah, I'm that mighty house. Okay, and how did the house get mighty? By having the people in there as slaves. And when you're having the people in there as slaves, paying them little to nothing, you're going to get rich quickly. Okay, let's move on. And it says the following. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women. Let's understand what's going on. Just as the brothers who did the presentation spoke about, the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. And I'm not trying to add to nor take away from the scriptures and so forth and so on. But if you know what the Egyptian women went into, and if you know what sisters are into, it's two different cultures. It's two different mentalities. When in the Israelite culture, when the man of the house passes away, she doesn't kill herself too and the children so they can all be in the afterlife. Black women, sisters don't do that. Their thing is, well, Your dad's gone. My husband's gone. May he rest in peace. Son, you take over. Or in certain cases where she may remarry. But once it comes down to certain things, no, the cultures are different. So the Hebrew women is not like the Egyptian women. And it gives you a reason right here. For they are lively and were delivered ere their midwives came in unto them. So when it says they were lively, that the children already was coming out even before the midwives were even, quote unquote, able to get to them to, quote unquote, do your edict, O great Pharaoh. You understand? So that's where it boils down to right there. So you see how the king of Egypt in that time had the sisters, Shifra and Puah, and I'm sure, not to put words in the book, I'm sure there was probably more than them. You understand what I'm saying? But getting back into the point, not trying to speak my own words, but when it says that that they were lively, that they were different. They're not of the dead. See, when you get into the culture of America, and then you look at the culture of ancient Egypt, you see it's of the dead. The coffin text, that implies death. The book of the dead, that emphatically implies death. The pyramid text, the pyramids were partly, not fully, but partly used to bury their dead. When you go, for instance, to blow up a spot, so to speak, or to sit there and expose the spot, there is a place in New York City in downtown. Anybody familiar with New York City, south of 14th Street, south of Fulton Street by the 4 train, there is a huge cemetery where the European man sits down there and has his lunch as if there's nothing wrong with him sitting there having his salad next to a tombstone where somebody is probably buried on top of the next person. That is their culture. They deal with the dead. When you go into Yale University, they will sit there and do what? They make a homage where they have masturbation orgies and everything like that and sacrificing things to who? The dead. That's the same thing that goes on right in Yale. It goes on in some of these Ivy League colleges, okay, not to sit there and expose too much, but to get right into the point, you can see how that culture was very, very similar. You understand? And how they, in ancient days, not to take away from Deuteronomy 28, but how they in ancient days actually got the thing that they call the coffin text and what they call the Middle Kingdom is simply because the people got upset of what was going on in the society with the old kingdom and the pharaohs having everything to themselves, or the kings of Egypt, that is by name, having everything to themselves, to where they said, you know what, I'm going to sit there and take a part of that too. So the coffin text is actually written by the peasants or the regular people of the Egyptian society and not the hierarchy per se. So that right there is very important to let that also be noted. Now, getting back into the point here, it says in verse 20, therefore the Most High dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. That's what they did not even want to have in ancient Egypt there. That's what they did not want to have in this modern Egypt right here. We got to understand the definition of Egypt and Mizraim. We're going to get into that in the next hour of this presentation. But this right here, what I'm doing, blessed be the Father, also on a human level, thinking the brother Sal to be used by the Most High to even be able to present such a situation. Now, getting back into this part right here, it says that the Most High dealt well with the midwives. They don't want, to use the term loosely, God to even be taught among our brothers and our sisters. And this is why, not trying to be harsh or funny, you now see metal detectors in school. This is why when I was a student in a high school, I remember when I used to go to high school, not going to name the school for purposes of my business, but once it came right down, I remember seeing people throwing out the razor blades on the side and say, yo, I'm going to go and get this later. I remember them sitting up there saying, I remember situations where I'm going to take this weapon, put this over there behind this rock, and so forth and so on, because I got to go through the metal detector to sit there and deal with the school thing. So you don't want the commandments of the Most High taught in school. So now you got metal detectors. You don't want the commandments of the Most High taught in school. You don't want God in the school, so to speak. So now you got nurseries inside of the school. When you got male and female energies around 15, 16, when they're going through puberty, but you don't want the Most High to be taught in there about Deuteronomy 22, what she's impregnated, that's your wife. You don't want that. No, we have freedom. So now you got broken families. Thanks to your freedom. You don't want God. You're going to get, not to sound religious, the devil to enter the situation. It's what it is. So now, once it comes down to this right here, it says that the midwives did not fear, or that is to say, to take serious the edict of the Pharaoh, but they rather respect what the Most High would have wanted and did not kill their children. All right, now we're going to go on, and it says in verse 22 to conclude out. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. And how can we correlate what was going on in ancient Egypt with our ancestors then and read their descendants going on in this modern Egypt? Let's push abortion. Let's push the uses of condoms. And what happens with that when you take the condom off? You do what with it in many cases? You flush it. It gets into the river. That's your seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that you done flushed into the harbor. And so we can see exactly what exactly is going on. They are trying to do what they call eradication of the people. So that way we should be able to pay attention and know and understand what exactly is going on and why in this particular brief intro, some of the reasons why we say as Israelites that Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, is speaking in reference with us being in this Egypt here by way of ships. Okay? Because they're same premise, working in the field. It says that, particularly in the book of Exodus, who was working in the field in this modern Egypt but us, building houses. Who was building houses but us? Who built Beverly Hills? Us. Who built the mansions that you see in Pennsylvania? Us. Who designed the White House? It was Benjamin Banneker. And then when the British birthed it in 1814, they got more slaves to sit there and rebuild the new White House. Who did all of that? It was us. So therefore, we have to know and understand why we as Israelites are presenting such a case in such a manner. You understand? Now, let's move on into the next particular subject. All right? Now, the ancient Israelites, after they left out of the land of Egypt under the leadership of Moses, Moshe or Moses passed away. Okay, now let's explain. Moshe is Hebrew. The Egyptian equivalent of such would be Musos. Musos in Egyptian means child. Moshe, from the Hebrew root word masha, means to draw from water. So therefore, his name would have been in Egyptian Musos, or inside of the Hebrew Moshe. So Moses is the English equivalent of such. Okay, let's move on. Now, the next people that the Israelites really come into play with, when you're studying this particular form of the history, gets into the Assyrian people. Now, last week we went over the situation with the Assyrians, so we're going to sit there and just go right past that. No big need to sit there and rehearse all of that aspect. It's on file. It's on the record. After the Assyrians, you got the Babylonians. Last week we went over the situation that happened with Ashurbanipal. He got defeated by the Babylonian Nabopolassar, the Nebuchadnezzar. The situation I was reading out of the book entitled Ancient Near Eastern Texts by Pritchard, page 193, page 205. That's from Amazon. Let's move on. Okay, now we know after Babylon came down as a kingdom, the Medo-Persian Empire came up, which a lot of people in history refer to as the Achaemenid Empire. Now, how do we correlate what we read in Genesis chapter 2, verse 3, brothers and sisters, where it says in that particular portion, it says, in Abraham and within Abraham, meaning of his seed line, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because when Cyrus II became around the children of Judah, the house of Israel, that's when Cyrus II in history is now known as Cyrus the Great. That's how that happened. So let that be noted and understood. And when you go into a record entitled History of the World, and one of the subtitles is called the Cyrus Prism, Cyrus C-Y R-U-S, Prism, P-R-I-S-M. And what that speaks about is the same thing in the book of Ezra, and the Bible talks about the children of Israel going back home into the land of their ancestry. But now, this is also, brothers and sisters, where the children of Israel also began scattering among their own selves. Because when Cyrus made that edict, it says, let all those who have a willing heart go there. That means and shows that even the Persians knew in that era that some of the Israelites, after Babylon fell, did not even want to go back to the land of Israel. They stayed in Babylon. Babylon is next to the land of Nippur in the ancient world. Nippur is just a little north of the land of Ur of Chaldea. That's where Abraham came from. This is what Ezekiel 23 is talking about, which we went over back in January 29th. You understand what I'm saying? Such as in reference about the land of their origin. So they was comfortable being in the ancient Sumerian places, the ancient Akkadian places, the ancient Babylonian places, because that's where the ancient Chaldean places, because that's where their origin came from. You understand? So let that be noted and understood. So now, the same people that we're just speaking about, such as the Medes and the Persians and everything like that, as we went over in January 29th, speaking about the whole issue of the true story of Kemet and Hebrew society, I noticed when I did that presentation, some people were saying, oh, you got an Israelite saying the true history of Kemet. I don't want to hear that. No, that's not even the title of the show. The show is entitled The True History of Kemet, and that's the conjecture, that's the joining, and the Hebrew society. So it shows you where the Hebrews and their society was meshing in with the Kemet stuff. That was the issue in the presentation back on January 29th. But when people are biased or when people already have an agenda on their own mind, they don't see even all the words that's there. And then build up a story based upon that, even though they're looking at the same sentence. Not the same chapter where you got to keep on reading the exact same sentence. People misread one sentence. But let's move on. Now, to get into the next situation is that if you understand what happened is that you had Israelites that was in the land of Egypt, even do what you call Dynasty 27 of Egypt. This is when you can, in your own time, for reference, you can look up Bagoas. That is to spell as Bogoas, Bagoas, and the quote-unquote, as it says, the Jews of Elephantine. Now, I use the word quote-unquote for Jews, and I'm going to explain in the next hour about how Jew is another byword that Deuteronomy 28:37 talks about that was given to Israel in history. Because when you get into the subject matter of it all, Yahudah means Judah. Yahudi means Judite. And the situation as explained last week on that show about Israel today in Assyria and Babylon, as it was entitled last Tuesday, you will sit there and see the presentation concerning the etymology about the word Jew with the Middle French when the D drops, whereas in Hebrew, the D or Dalet never drops in any phonetics at all. Not to sound arrogant, I challenge anyone in Hebrew, not to sound boastful. If you can show me in Hebrew where the D or the Dalet letter drops out, please do so. And then I will show you where the Nun letter drops out. I can show you where the Hey, which is the fifth letter, drops out, but you're never going to show the Dalet or the D dropping out. So therefore, phonetically, Jew has no equivalent to the Hebrew language. It is called a byword, and it was put in there to sit there and make people confused about who the true house of Israel is. So when you say, I am Hebrew, I am an Israelite, oh, you're Jewish. No, you're playing games. Or you were lied to. I am telling you exactly who I am. I am over the age of 30. So if I'm telling you that I'm an Israelite, respect me enough, even if you think that I'm out my mind, to sit there and just say, well, that's him calling himself that. Please don't try to put a byword such as Jew on me and then so forth and so on to try to make it seem as if it's something different. Respect me as a man enough for that. Thank you. All right, so now, to get back into the subject matter of what we're speaking of, after the Medes and the Persians fell, you had Alexander coming up. Now, after Alexander came up, he was assassinated or poisoned or he died and so forth and so on at the age of 32. Now, here is where I would like to go, brothers and sisters, into the book of the Apocrypha for a cross-reference. We're going to go into the book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41, so we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter. Okay? And here is what we read in the book of Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 41, and it says the following. Moreover, King Antiochus, now this is Antiochus IV. He was part of the Seleucids, and Seleucus was one of the successors of Alexander, okay? Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. We are reading in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, now verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. Is that not what they try to have us do here, profane the Sabbath? Oh, we have a lunar Sabbath. It ain't a weekly thing, it's a monthly thing. Even though it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, 6 days thou shalt labor, but the seventh day. How do you get a lunar Sabbath when it says the seventh day and 7 days make a week? weeks turn months. So you can't have a lunar Sabbath by looking a weekly event such as the Sabbath by a monthly count. That's mathematically impossible. But let's move on, okay? It says what? Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Shabbat. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and to the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Shabbat and the festival days. What? They're teaching them profane the Shabbat and the festival days. So this is how they was breaking the people off from the culture of being Israel. You ain't got to worry about the 10th day of the 7th month, the Day of Atonement. You ain't got to worry about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We're giving you Easter. See? That's what it is. So instead of sitting there and celebrating your own holy days, your own sacred times, here's something we all, because after all, it's just a day, right? So we could just do it any old given time, and we could just do it any old given place, and we could just do it at any old given name that whatever we want to call it. While in society, they'll teach you in school, in high school, they will teach you about a thing called cultural diffusion. That is to say, okay, all the cultures are meshed together, but the word diffuse basically means to break off from the origin. So with cultural diffusion, when you're mixing the different cultures, you're losing part of your own culture. And that's what in the time of Antiochus in history is called Hellenizing the people of Israel. Let's move on. Hellenizing meaning from the word Hellenes for Greek, which they said was the great light. Okay, let's move on. And it says, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beast, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. When you look on, like in New York City, and I'm sure maybe in other places where you got the black female up there saying, I know my son deals with men, but I still support him. What does it say here? That they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. So that means you don't even have the concept of marriage. You got men posted with men talking about that's my boo. You got girls and girls posted up talking about she knows me better than any man. This right here is the kind of same culture that was being passed down from that time, and we can see it also in this time. All manner of uncleanness and profanation. Profane, that is. To the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. To the end that they might forget the law. And that means that you don't have, even in this society, they call it, law and order. So if there's no law, there's no order. And that right there is something I just wanted to read because we can sit there and see how the Greek civilization, in which a lot of people say, oh, the Greeks were great, and so forth and so on. But if they were sitting there supposed to have been so great, why is it that every record that's left about them from other nations is sad? How come the Israelites wrote that in the book of Maccabees? How come the Indians were happy when I say Indians, I'm speaking about the East Indians, when the Lassamikists no longer had control over them? How come the people in modern-day Afghanistan and the ancient world was happy when the kingdom of the Lassamikists fell? How come the people in Egypt were happy when the Ptolemies were no longer in power, even though Egypt itself wasn't in power of its own self at that time? It's because everywhere the Greeks went, they messed up. That's why all the nations were happy when the Greeks fell. Okay? Now, getting back into the other subject, Greeks fell as an empire, that is. We're speaking in the 2nd century BCE to the Romans. We went over this history before with Perseus. Okay, so when he got defeated by the Romans. Then the Romans come up as a power. That's very, very important to get into this presentation right here concerning Rome, because a couple of Romans stand out in history to the Israelites. Pompey is one, Domitian is another. I'm not naming them in order, but Pompey is one, Domitian is another, Nerva is another, Hadrian is one, Nero is one, Caligula is one, Cassius is another. And so let's understand exactly why that guy Cassius was even mentioned. I have a book here in reference and speaking about the situation with the Romans, all right, and the people of the Israelites. So that way we can gain some understanding. Okay, now, in this book here is entitled The Oxford History of the Roman World. Now, people say, well, we don't always want to deal with the Bible. We want to deal on the collegiate level. Well, this is something from Oxford. You know, that's a big university way over there across the water in Europe. They make dictionaries, too. Okay, so now let's go in here and let's see what this particular part says. On page 67, we read the following, so that way we can gain some understanding. It says, concerning the Roman Empire and their expansion with Cassius. This is during the time before Titus, and this is very important concerning Deuteronomy 28:68, that this is read before the era of Titus, and we'll see why when it's read. Page 67 reads as follows. The East had not fully recovered when the renewed civil wars broke out. Pompey and Caesar, Brutus and Cassius, Antony and Octavian all financed their campaigns for Rome subjects. So that means, so this is all before the era of Titus, right? We're speaking now in reference with the Roman Empire. And what does it say? That the Roman subjects were the people that were being taxed. So that way Mark Antony can have his war. So that way Octavian can sit there and have his war. Mind you, they were the same ones who were at war against each other. But they both was unified in taxing their subjects. Let's move on. When Yehuda or Ayudia or Judea could not pay, Cassius demanded he sold 4 towns and many officials into slavery. As Antony observed, this was unauthorized by the laws of war. So this right here in this collegiate book entitled The Oxford History of the Roman World, page 68, shows that Cassius, which was a Roman senator, when the people of Israel, Judea as they were called by the Romans, or Ayudia in the Latin, were not able to pay for the wars, it says that he took 4 of their towns and he did what? He took 4 towns and he sold 4 towns, and many officials into slavery. So let that be noted and understood exactly what was going on. So that right there is very, very important, so that way it can be gained and understood. All right? When the Israelites cannot sit there and afford it, what happened? They took their towns and sold the people of Israel into slavery. So now let's move on some of the people, okay, into slavery. So let that be noted and understood. In the year 63 BCE, the guy Pompey of Rome made what you call Judea or Judah, the capital at that time still being Jerusalem, what you call a Roman province. So that's very important to let that be noted and understood. Issue to sit there and point out is this, and that is speaking about the scattering of the tribes of Israel. Part of the scattering, brothers and sisters, we went over last week about Jehu or Jehu concerning the people that were scattered of Israel into certain places, right? I have a book here, and it's quoted quite often by many people, right? The name of this book that I'm speaking of is called Hebrewisms of West Africa, okay? And in that particular book, I like to sit there and read part of it, okay? And it reads as follows. We're going to go to page 190. So that way we can sit there and sum this up and move along, okay? And here is what we read. This is Hebrewisms of West Africa under the title Vanished Glories of the North, the subtitle Testimony of the Tombs. And it says, in Africa, the first Jewish graveyards to be noted are those in Carthage, in which the Jewish catacombs are recognized. And another part, here is what we read. Vanished Glories of the North, concerning the situation with Carthage, on page 189. And again, inscriptions indicate that certain tribes of Asher and of Zebulun lived in Carthage ever since the foundation of the city. So when was Carthage found was when it was founded by the people of the Zidonians. So what the author in Hebrewisms of West Africa is that when the Zidonians founded, or the people who the Greeks called the Phoenicians, when he founded or when they founded the city of Carthage, brothers and sisters, that you had people from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun mixed in there. So we see an evidence of how the tribes of Israel scattered. So now, let's move on, okay, so that way we can sit there and get into the meat of the presentation, and that being itself being Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. I like to go to show one more reference, if you will, about the scattering. And Isaiah chapter 11 is not no way knocking on Isaiah, but that's not where I was going to go. I'm going to go, brothers and sisters, not to what I did the first time in Jeremiah 44. We're going to go to another prophet that was mentioned before named Zephaniah. And this is quoted a lot of times by a lot of people. We're going to go to Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 10 to read the verse 14 so we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter. And we read as follows. It says, from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of mine dispersed, shall bring mine offering. And that day shall thou not be ashamed for all thy doings, wherein thou hast transgressed against me. For then will I take away out of the midst of thee them that rejoice in thy pride, and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my and thou shalt no more be haughty because of my holy mountain. What is that saying in verse 12? In verse 11. Very important. It says the Most High would take away those that are haughty, that are in his holy mountain. That's talking about the nations that are haughty, saying this is our land. We're the true people of this land. We was here before X, Y, and Z people. That is to say, in today's terminology, the converted people that's over there in the land. It said the Most High is going to remove them, because it talks about those that were scattered beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Then it mentions it here about those who are not of the land, that are in the land. Okay, let's move on. I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Most High. The remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. But they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. Sing, O daughter of Zion, shout, O Yisrael. Be glad and rejoice with all thy heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. So what's being stated right here, this is how you know it says the daughter of the dispersed. And then in verse 10, so that's why I read in verse 14 when it said daughter of Jerusalem. The daughter of Jerusalem, the children of Israel, were the people that was dispersed from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. So what are beyond the rivers of Ethiopia? And today, as stated last weekend, back in January, is what you call today the White and Blue Nile. Because part of the Nile River that a lot of people into Egypt talks about, but it starts not in Egypt, not in Egypt, but it starts in one part of today called Lake Tana in Ethiopia, the other part being started in what they call the Uganda, and then it flows north. So let that be known. It says from beyond that, the daughters of Jerusalem was the suppliants. They were the ones who were supplying services to the Most High God. They were the ones who were sent and scattered from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. So it tells you exactly where the children of Israel went. This is during the time of Josiah, the king of Judah. This is during the fall of Assyria and the rise of Babylon. And we already see in reference about Israelites being scattered in certain places. It's not England. It's not Germany. It's not Czechoslovakia. We already went several times, like with the brother Mikael, going over Egypt, Patros, Kush, Shinar, the islands of the sea. Those are what you call, in today's terminology, the places in what you call the quote-unquote Middle East. That is to say Western Asia, Northeast Africa. That's where the children of Israel, even in the Israelite record, scattered to. Brothers and sisters, the amount of, not to sound racial or quote-unquote racist, the amount of black nations and countries that are mentioned in the scriptures exceeds 1,000 times. The amount of white or quote-unquote European or Caucasian places mentioned in the Bible does not exceed 50. So let that be noted and understood. Throughout the entire Bible, as we see it now, with the 66 books, inclusive of the New Testament, I'm an Old Testament brother, but now that's not the main point. Getting back to the subject, the amount of melanated or colored places or black places or Negroid places that you see of written in the Bible exceeds 1,000 times. The amount of Caucasian places or white places mentioned in the Bible does not exceed 50 times. So now, when you do see the European or the white or the Caucasian places mentioned, why is that? It's because that's when the Greeks were in power. That's when the Romans were in power. So when they was writing the history that we now see in the scriptures, that's the only reason why they get any play or clout or reference in the scriptures. Everything else prior to the era of Alexander was all mentioned, nothing but mainly the people of color. So let that be noted and understood. The only time you read about the Greeks in Ezekiel 27 or you read about the Greeks in the book of Joel is because that's the only time when Israel either did trade with them or when the other nations of Ishmael sold the sons of Judah. As it said, the Sabians, which is part of the children of Ishmael, sold the sons of Judah to the Grecians far from their border. So that's how, if anything, that you get Israelites scattered in Europe. They didn't go there on their own volition. I like to present that as a person who moved from different places and as a brother, blessed be the Most High, who studies a little bit of history once it comes right down to certain things. When you move to a place, what do you ask for? If you got children, especially. Are the schools good? Is everything nice there? How are the race relations? How are the men treated? How are the women treated? How is the food there? How is the plumbing there? How's the electricity? Because that's what you do when you're not familiar with a place. The ancient Israelites, as we see in the book of Jeremiah 44, on your own volition, you can read that, they was used to going into the land of Egypt, so it was nothing for them to chill in Elephantine. It was nothing for them to chill in the place called Alexandria after a while. Because after a while, they was just already used to going back and forth in the land of Egypt and the Sudan and into Ethiopia. That to them was, okay, I'm going to just go across the Sinai. Shalom. See you next time. So you understand. But once it came down to European places, they were not familiar with traveling back and forth to settle up there. They did business with Tarshish. They did business with the Greeks, the sons of Javan, and so forth. But as far as setting up a colony and we're going to live there and plant ourselves there, no, that's not Israel's volition. Israel's going to go into wherever, like anybody else would, when they bouncing from their original home. They're going to go to a place they're more familiar with. They're not going to go to a place where they're not as familiar with. And if the Greeks and the Romans, as we were reading, if they came from the north, coming south into the land of Israel, why were the Israelites, the army, to run into the north, into Europe? That doesn't make any kind of sense. Why would you run into enemy territory? You're going to run away from the enemy because an enemy that is stronger than you. All right? That's logic at that point. Okay, now, brothers and sisters, I want to sit there and get into, brothers and sisters, the subject matter that we've been talking about and going over and so forth and so on. And that is the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And so, now, I'm not going to read all from 15 to verse 68. Just going to highlight certain points for time and edification purposes, right? Okay. I want to go, let's start in verse 15 of Deuteronomy 28. And here is what we read. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. Cursed shalt thou be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Stop right there. The kind and the flocks of your sheep. Brothers and sisters, Israel was a people that was part-time shepherds who on the earth still is dealing in reference with being shepherds, our people. When you even go into the book written by Alex Haley entitled Roots, the guy who was Kunta in the book saying the European man is not wise to have the Fulani people up there picking up hay and straw when everyone knows the Fulani are good as herdsmen. Who in history of Israel was known as good as herdsmen outside of the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the tribe of Manasseh when you go into the book of Numbers? Who was called and teased as being shepherd kings? Those are the Hyksos, and Hyksos means, shepherd kings. Who were part of those people, if not the quote-unquote the Asiatics? And who were not part of those Asiatics outside of the children of Israel? Let's move on. Deuteronomy 28, we're going to go into verse 19. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Most High shall send upon thee cursing and vexation and rebuke, and all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do. And thou shalt be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings whereby thou hast forsaken me. Now, I want to get into the linguistics as stated on my Facebook wall about Deuteronomy 28, because when you read the word destroyed, the Hebrew root word there is the Hebrew word hashmad.
Hashmad in Hebrew is a hif'il verb stem, right, in root. And what it means basically is the causative of the root word shamad. Shamad in Hebrew means to devastate. Nishmad means to be devastated. And Hashmad means to cause one to be devastated. So destroy in Hebrew and devastate is two different words. So in many cases, be it the King James Version or be it the Masoretic Old Testament text, they both, unfortunately, this is why the language is important, they both unfortunately have the word destroyed there when the word devastated should be written in that context. Because that's exactly what happened with the people. Because how are the people going to be destroyed? They were being rebuked for everything that they do. And who's rebuked for everything that they do? Our people are being rebuked for everything that we do. We can't sit there and establish a thing called BET, which is now operated by white people, Black Entertainment Television. That's racist. That's a part of rebuking anything that you put your hand unto to do. Let's establish a school. No. Okay. Let's get into the history of what happened with that. See, schools in the Jim Crow thing, they was okay with it being segregated until the situation happened when they say, let's develop our own black schools. And let our black schools be like the way it was back in the 1870s and in the 1880s. Okay, Martin Luther King, we'll sit there and have the integration happen because they'll rather sit there and have the integration happen as opposed to listening to people like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King saying, let the black man have his own land. Let us get 3 states of our own. No, you can't have that because remember, in Abraham and his seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. So this is why when Lincoln wanted to send the slaves back or the descendants of the slaves back, Congress, no, we're going to block that. We need to get those Negroes up there into working. Do you know why the Ku Klux Klan was formed in 1866? And some people say Indiana, some people say in the South, regardless of wherever they stated where they started. Do you know why they started? The Ku Klux Klan started in the 1860s, so that way after the black people were freed during slavery or after slavery to try to defend the white people against the black descendants of the slaves who are going to want to retaliate. But they was astonished, as it says, astonishment of heart, when the black people, our people just said, I don't want to fight back. I just want to sit there and go to work. You want to do what? Yeah, let's just go to work. That's what we want to do. And for the purpose of it and the uses of it, when you even look in the movie that Steven Spielberg pointed out called Lincoln, it says, what are you going to do after the war, sir? Work, sir. Maybe you'll hire me. You see, we didn't have the attitude to want to strike back fully to a great extent. We'd rather just sit there and be of peace. And that's really what we wanted in most cases. You understand? Because, as it says in Leviticus, and this is also the detriment to the aspect of just wanting only peace after you've been attacked. The Most High said he will break the pride of your power. So you don't even have the will to want to even fight back. Let's just keep on working because that's what we've been doing anyway. You shall grope at noonday like the blind gropes about in darkness. Let's just keep on doing it because, hey, that's what we've been doing anyway. We already fought back in the Civil War. We got everything that we would have wanted, so we okay. Let's take it even outside of the United States. After the people in Haiti and in Jamaica and in Trinidad and all those other places in the Caribbean, when they became emancipated, Haiti being, if I remember right, 1803 or 1804, the rest of the islands being in 1838, we don't want to fight back. We now got our own land over here, so we can just keep on working the land that way we've been doing it. Because we have no strength to stand before our enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. Let's go into verse 25 so we can see the portion that's being spoken about. It says what? The Most High shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. And thou shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Now, one of the things to point out with this, it distinctly says that you will go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. So how exactly was that done and how we can correlate it into the timeline of what we're speaking about of, as far as us being the people of Deuteronomy 28? When we will go on marches and we will go and protest strong, we were very affluent in doing what we were going to do. And when they sent in the dogs and when they sent in the hoses, we scattered like roaches. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. In the English, once again, now get into the linguistics, it says, you shall be removed to all the kingdoms of the earth. The Hebrew says, Hayita laza'awa lakol mam lakot ha'aretz. And what that means doesn't mean remove. It means you shall be a horror to all the kingdoms of the earth. So how can we correlate that to this kingdom over here? Were we not a horrified thing over to these other nations in this kingdom in the Western Hemisphere? I'm not presenting for argument purposes, brothers and sisters who are listening, because I know people may have questions. When Israelites in the Western Hemisphere speak about us in the Western Hemisphere, we are not, in 2015, with the information we have now, we are not saying that there are not Israelites in Africa still, that there are Israelites over in what you call the Middle East still. We do know and acknowledge that. However, when we came to the understanding, our eyes were open to this truth, all we know is our immediate, quote-unquote, Black American, quote-unquote, West Indian history. So we have to ask our brothers and sisters that are Israelites still over in the Eastern lands to have an understanding of why we focus, it may seem, only on the Black Western people as far as being the children of Israel, is because this is what we know immediately. So just bear with us as the Most High continues to bring the tribes of Israel together. We ask that. All right, now, so the other thing to let it be noted and pointed out, when you get to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, it says, as stated, you shall be a horror, a za'awa, to all the kingdoms of the earth. So like how it is in this kingdom, how is it that we are a horror to them? When you find out about schools and integration, when they did allow one black girl in Louisiana, I forgot what city it was, to sit in the school, every white parent took their child out that school. They did not want them to be sitting together. The situation that happened with Marcus Garvey, the situation that happened around that era when our brothers and sisters from the islands were coming into North America, what did the people of this kingdom, sit there and tell the people from the islands? Black Americans are lazy. Black Americans don't want to do anything. Black Americans are shiftless, and they sit there and they're just no good people. And some of our people from the islands still, unfortunately, hold that same thing as they were taught by the European man concerning us over here in the United States. And what do they tell the black people from America about those that were from the islands? They're warlike, they're violent, they're criminals, they're mischievous, they are no good people. They don't even sound like you when y'all talk, do they? And unfortunately, because, let's go into verse 28. The Most High shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Because we were smitten with madness and blindness, we were blind of our laws, blind of our culture, blind of our history, blind of where we came from, and the fact that the same what they call the good ship Jesus dropped you off in Barbados and then dropped you off over in Virginia. A lot of our people forget that connection, that we are still one people between us over here in the Western Hemisphere, between the quote-unquote Black American Yankees and the quote-unquote Black American West Indians. And also, I say the quote-unquote Black West Indians. We're one people. So let that be noted and understood. Because if you trace it via the slave trade and the slave ships, one of the biggest ports, ports, that they use is Barbados, because that's the closest point to West Africa, right? And that port, if you want to use it like that, legally, quote-unquote legally, became open in what they call the year 1627. But prior to that, they was already doing the slave trade in South America. So all of that has to be noted in history and pointed out. The next thing, let's go on and explaining Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, right? And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt only be oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So what's going on right here? It says, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. Is that not how a lot of our people are? And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. In the middle of the day, groping, I'm just wandering around. What you doing? Oh, nah, just chilling. 5 o'clock in the morning, doing the same thing as 12 in the afternoon, doing the same thing when homegirl comes home at 6 o'clock p.m. I do absolutely nothing. I'm just chilling all day, and I'm just chilling all night. What you going to do? 5 o'clock in the morning, standing on the corner. Thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt only be oppressed and spoiled evermore. What is that saying? How many times do we work in this society, and they will sit there and tell you, oh, well, your income tax, you don't get the state back, and this, that, we are being robbed left and right. And, of course, there are some who may say, well, you know what, that happens to other people too. That didn't happen to other people. They're not cursing the city and in the field. They're not the ones who's running this empire in this kingdom. Because when they had the 3/5 compromise for the people to vote in what they call the 14th Amendment and in the 15th and the 13th and all of that kind of stuff in that era, that's never been changed in the Constitution about us as people being 3/5. In 2006, Bush Jr. had to sign the edict, if you want to use that word, for black people to vote again. Carter did it before him, and the president before him did it. So for the next 50 years, black people on paper have the right to vote in the United States. So whoever the president is 50 years after 2006 is going to have to decide, okay, I want to sign this in for black people to vote again. Our people, when they made the Constitution, those 10 things, they did not include us because they are the ones who's running the kingdom. Leviticus 26, verse 17, is where it distinctly says, they who hate you shall rule over you. So that's not too hard to let that be noted and pointed out. Now, when you go into a thing on YouTube, there's a video called Hebrew or Negro, Hebrew, the so-called Negro. When they explain in that video about Leviticus 26:17, they get very in-depth about how the presidents own slaves, about how the congressmen own slaves, and so forth and so on. They who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when none pursues you. So we're sitting up there, okay, we're going to now run up to the north. But there was nobody really chasing you up into the north. The European man or the American white people after the Civil War was just trying to sit there and trying to get themselves together after the North whooped their behind. But nobody was chasing us up into the North, and nobody was really chasing us over into the West to become the people that you see in California, the people that you see over in Oregon and all those other states like that where there are black populations and so forth and so on. You shall flee when no one pursues you. So we can see how Deuteronomy 28 and the situations came upon us as a people, and we're going to move on. Deuteronomy 28, right? Let's go into verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. There is a book entitled, Why Do Black Men Choose White Women? And that's a book that they have given out in certain black college courses, right? It says in that book that during slavery, the black male who was the slave would know good and well that the overseer of the plantation, the European, or the white slave master will be sleeping with the black woman, the slave woman, that is, and unfortunately in our history. And he would come out and have the black man standing in front of the door. This is all documented in that book entitled Why Black Men Choose White Women. And he would have the black man standing right outside, and you will hear the rape going on inside of that room there. And then he being broken as a man, because as it says in Leviticus, it says, thou will break the pride of your power when you go against his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. And he is recorded in history as saying, oh, your woman got some good. We're going to keep the language clean, all right? We brothers and sisters, we grow. You know what the saying is. Your woman got some good. And, well, Massa, I hope you enjoyed it. When it says in Leviticus 26 that the Most High will break the pride of your power, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. You understand? So if you could trace anybody's history according to that kind of lines, please do so. And we're going to show how the things connect into place. Because a lot of people went through oppression, but nobody went through oppression where they forgot who they were, where they forgot their land, language, and culture. You see, and all of the people that was given reparations, the Japanese, the Indians, the Jewish people, and so forth and so on, all of them know their land, language, and culture. That's why they still call themselves Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenaz is German. Ashkenaz is descendants of Japhet. Even though they rock Judaism and portray themselves as Jews or the people of the Bible, they know they're Ashkenazi. They know their origin. It's us over here who went into amnesia of who we are. And saying that we're African, which is claiming a continent, means that you don't know what part of that place that you belong to. So you just claim any place where the people look like you. The Most High will smite you with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. Who did that go with? The European Jew is sitting up there saying, well, he can't claim to be the Asiatic people or the people that descended from the Chaldeans. Can't do that. because they supported the guy Godfrey Higgins. Godfrey Higgins, in his book, Anacalypsis, quoted by J. Rogers, said the Chaldeans were originally Negroes. So they can't sit there and, well, we won't say we're from the Chaldeans, we'll just say we're Jews. But you're not claiming that ancestry through the Aramean women, Leah and Raquel, because the Arameans were people of color. You see, and the artwork of the Egyptians in the tombs of Thebes shows you these are the Amu of the people of the Kor. Look them up whenever you get the opportunity. Khor, Kor. The Egyptian word for the Hebrew word Aram, which is in Greek said as Syrian. And look at the color of the people that the Aramean people are. And then look who were the women that Leah, Raquel, Bilhah, and Zilpah were, if they were not the same Aramean people from, as it says, Padan Aram. Padan Aram in the book of Genesis means the field of, or the plain of, Plain, the plain of Aram. The Aramean people were the maternal ancestors of the nation of Israel, and they were of color. This is why the Jewish man, he knows good and well, he's the Ashkenazi. That's why they still call themselves Ashkenazi to this day. That's why they do that. They're not going to sit there and just totally go all the way out. We're the only ones who went into amnesia of who we are as a people. And I would like to, at this time, brothers and sisters, present a particular case. And I don't mean to sound funny or racial or disrespectful or offensive or anything of that sort. But it's something to sit there and let it be noted and understood, if we will. I have a book here, right? And the name of the book that I'm going to be reading from is entitled The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler. Now, this is a person who wrote, as they state online, it's a very controversial book, and we don't know about how much we should really push and endorse this kind of book due to certain of the contents that's within that particular book. So that's why at this time I want to sit there and read, if we will, a part of that book entitled The 13th Tribe. And on page 16 of this book, here is what we read, and it reads as follows, all right? How important in quantitative terms is the quote-unquote presence of the Caucasian sons of Japhet in the tents of Shem? One of the most radical propounders of the hypothesis concerning the Khazar origins of Jewry is the professor of medieval Jewish history at Tel Aviv University, A. Polayek, and his book Khazaria was published in 1944 in Tel Aviv, and a second edition in 1951. In his introduction, he writes that the facts demand a new approach both to the problem of the relations between the Khazar Jewry and the other Jewish communities, and to the question of how far we can go in regarding this Khazar Jewry as the nucleus of the large Jewish settlement in Eastern Europe. The descendants of the settlement, those who stayed where they are, those who emigrated to the United States and other countries, and those who went to Israel, constitute now a large majority of the world Jewry. Now, the author of the book continues as follows. This was written before the full extent of the Holocaust was known, but that does not alter the fact that the large majority of the surviving Jews in the world is of Eastern European and thus perhaps mainly of Khazar origin. If so, this would mean that their ancestors came not from the Jordan, but from the Volga. Here we go. Not from Canaan, but from the Caucasus, what's believed to be the cradle of the Aryan race. And that genetically, they are more, here we go, more closely related to the Hun, Ugar, and Megayah tribes than to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Should this turn out to be the case, then the term anti-Semitism will become void of meaning, based on a misapprehension shared by both the killers and their victims. Now, in the back of the same book, The 13th Tribe, because the author of this got in big trouble for writing this book, I want to sit there and read a part of it. It says, concerning the Khazar Empire, it says, therefore, the Khazars found themselves in a precarious position between two major world powers, the Eastern Roman Empire and Byzantium, and the triumphant followers of Muhammad. As Mr. Costa points out, the Khazars were the third world of their day, and they chose a surprising method of resisting both the Western pressure to become Christian and the Eastern to adopt Islam. Rejecting both Christianity and Islam, they converted to Judaism. That is how you get the so-called European Jew of today. And that book right there, as stated, is controversial to many people. A lot of people are saying, well, because Alpha Casa was a European Jew himself. And when he found that particular type of information out and published it, they try to sit there and say, he's gone crazy. He's gone mad. No. Prior to that, he used to be a movie director. When he was making the money, he wasn't crazy and mad with his silly movies. But as soon as he realized, hold on, for real, why we say we Ashkenazi is because we're the Caucasian sons of Japhet and the Tench of Shem. Something is wrong. I got to sit back and, rehash this type of thing. So when you read that book on your own, you will see that's the kind of conclusion that the guy off the Costa basically came up with. You're not the children of Israel. That's why it's called, that book entitled The 13th Tribe, because the 12 tribes of Israel are not them. Okay, now to sit there and get into, because remember, as stated before, Israel deals with prophecy, because the Most High said that, or as it says in the book of Amos, the Most High will not do anything without revealing the message to his prophets. See, a lot of times people quote the mistranslated verse by saying the Most High will do nothing, but he reveals his counsel to his prophets. What it says really in Amos, when you read the Hebrew, is that says the Most High will not do anything without letting his prophets know. So now, one of the things to let it be noted, brothers and sisters, in concluding this subject matter right here, in speaking about Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, let's go on, all right, because it says the following. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and shall not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shall not gather the grapes thereof. When and how can we collect, and how we know that's talking about with us in this society right here? Brothers and sisters, you can go into a book entitled Slavery by Susan Everett, right? In that book, the author in there sit there and speaks about how black people, both in the islands and the United States, used to sit there and work in the cotton and work and cutting the sugar cane and working and gathering the fruits and everything like that, and they would have a mask on their face with a lock in the back. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shall not use the fruit thereof. Thou shalt build a house, and shall not dwell therein. Because they had you inside of the other house, inside of the cabin. Where, as pointed out during the era where Harriet Tubman is talking about, they slept on the dirt floor. Thou shalt become the tail and not the head. All right, let's move on. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build a house, and shall not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shall not gather the grapes thereof. Go on to verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. That means the Holy Bible is not saying that everybody is all one and the same. It distinctly says what? That thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. And thine eyes shall look and fear with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thy hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed alway, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight which thine eyes shall see. Whose sons and daughters? Remember, we're dealing with the Most High God, who is, as stated in the beginning, he who was, he who is, he who will be. He was the one who was telling the prophet Moses to sit there and explain this happening to who? The children of Israel. So how can we identify who is who? But it's by looking at the history of the world and who fits all of this. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. That means, one, as stated, all people ain't the same. It says another, okay? Then it says, and thine eyes shall look and fear with longing for them all the day long. When did that happen? Outside of many cases in which our people saw their children being sold. One of the things that come up to mind is like in the movie Roots when they sold the guy Kuta and Bell's daughter. That's one case. Then there are many, many other cases in which the sons and the daughters were being sold unto another people. Your eyes shall look for longing for them all day, and you can't do nothing. This is the society in the world when you study about sociology. This is one of the only societies in the first to sit there and have it to where you give birth to your child and your child does not belong to you. Instead of doing it how they did it in slavery, with our people, they now have you sign a birth certificate. And while you sign in the birth certificate, you have given your rights of your child over to the government. And sometime after that, they'll give you a number called the Social Security number. And that's the property of the government. Now, that's why they can lock you up legally if you don't send your child to the government schools of elementary. That's why if you spank your child, not condoning child abuse, mind you, if you spank your child, they can sit there and arrest you because you signed a paper stating, I give my child over to you. That's why they can sit there and tell your child, well, listen, you're going to have to get vaccinated. And if you don't get vaccinated, you can't come to school. And if you don't come to school, we can go home and arrest your parents. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look, and fear with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thy hand. The fruit of thy land and all thy neighbors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt only be oppressed and crushed always. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to go, if we will, back into the book of the Apocrypha. We're going to go to the Apocrypha, 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. And in this particular portion right here, brothers and sisters, is something very, very interesting. Now, this is something that was pointed out to me from some brothers from other Israelite schools, and it kind of really hit me. All right? 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48, and it reads as, and I'm sure many Israelites listening already know where we're going. It says, and they laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likenesses of their images. So that means that the Greeks, in Hellenizing things, taking it back to the original Europeans who were oppressing us in history, and then the Portuguese coming along later, that's the subject we'll get into. All right. All right, it's saying what emphatically? They laid open the book of the law where the heathen had sought to paint the likenesses of their own selves. So now, when we have Bibles centuries later and you see European images, they was doing that from way back then. Putting a white people's image in the scriptures doesn't make it theirs. No, it does not make it theirs. So when they had, in history, you will find out prior to the era of the Renaissance and all of that stuff, all of the black people's pictures and all of those old Bibles and the catacombs and everything of that sort were all people of color. I can't show it right now because I'm on the phone, but I got a picture where they showed Ezra in the ancient days where the man looks like he's a light-skinned brother with an afro that you need 2 picks for, just so we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about. Daniel, in his dream, he said, in the visions of his head by night, he said, behold, one of the Ancient of Days did sit, and his hair was like lamb's wool. Now, how many times are we going to have to know and understand how to connect the dots with certain things? You're not going to have the image of a dream of a people that you've never seen before or never been around. Daniel was from the line of King David. He was of the tribe of Judah. He was around the Babylonians. So these are the people that he's familiar with seeing with. Daniel, when you read the book of Daniel, never saw the European man. He never saw the Japhetic man. You understand? So all the people Daniel saw were people of color like himself. So his dream, when he said he saw in the visions of night a man whose hair was like lamb's wool, who has hair like lamb's wool? So it's understandable exactly how that is. You're not going to have a dream of a person looking like someone who you have never seen before, because your mind cannot fathom that. And that's why when you go to Daniel chapter 7, in the same chapter, when he saw those beasts, like the 4th beast that was dreadful and terrible, he did not fully know how to describe it. And it said that it made him sick certain days of the dreams that he had by night concerning those beasts and everything of that sort, because that was something that you might call a nightmare that he's not used to seeing. But the pleasant dream of the one of the Ancient of Days who did sit and judgment was set and the books are open, look like the people that he's used to seeing. So let that be noted and understood. And I would like to, for a reference, okay, I have a book here entitled Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary. Let's go straight to the word ruddy, all right, on page 510. Ruddy, definition stated in here as a word used to refer to a red or fair complexion in contrast to the dark skin of the Hebrews. So this right here is in the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, page 510. Ruddy, a word used to refer to a red or fair complexion in contrast to the dark skin of the Hebrews. So when you go now to Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4 through 8, and it says about the feet that were bronze, and then you go into the book of Daniel chapter 10, verse 5 and 6, about the feet of bronze and the arms that were bronze and the head that was like man's. Well, who are we talking about? We're talking about the people that's looking like the same people that the Israelites are familiar with. So the point of getting into the 13th tribe book is to sit there and explain how good and well that the European man is not the true house of Israel. Now, if anybody on earth, okay, want to sit there and keep the laws, the statutes, and the commandments of the Most High, it is not the place of an Israelite to say, oh, no, you cannot keep it. Because the Most High said in Joel that he will bring all nations to the valley of Jehoshaphat, and he will enter into judgment. So whoever is not of the house of Israel, and whoever Jeremiah 46 is talking about, when Yah said that he will make a full end of all the nations, that's all going to be done when you read in Joel in the valley of decision, or that's in Isaiah, pardon me, when this goes into the book of Joel, when it speaks about the valley of Jehoshaphat. So it is not the place of an Israelite then to sit there and say, well, you cannot serve the Most High. That's not what we are advocating as the house of Israel. What we're advocating is to know the truth of who is who. Because the Torah teaches, thou shalt not be a false witness against thy neighbor. So to try to sit there and give somebody like the European Jew does, oh, these are the Noahide laws. These are the 7 laws for the Goyim. That's not what the scriptures teach. There's no such thing as the Noahide laws. People want to come to Israelites or the black Hebrew Israelites and then sit there and state, well, you all are sounding like y'all racist. And don't you know that in Exodus chapter 12:48, it says, if he keeps the commandments, he's like the homeborn. Yeah, we understand and know that. But these same European Jews that you all are advocating, they don't accept the so-called black man, woman, and child as the Gerim. We are the converts. They don't accept us as that. And if you don't think so, the so-called Falashas in Ethiopia, they thought they would be accepted. And now you see the so-called Falashas in Haifa, Israel, committing suicide because of the way they're being treated in the land of Israel. Never trust thine enemy. Solomon said that. Now, let's move on. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's go into verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all the nations where the Most High shall lead thee. Verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Verse 43. The stranger that is within thee shall mount above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. So now, it says that you will have sons and daughters, but you will not enjoy them. They're not going to be yours to enjoy them because they're going to go into captivity. So that shows you it's about real talk. It's about your family. It's about your future. It's about your children. You can equate that what happened with us with the Willie Lynch thing, the concept. What did that concept say? We focus on future generations. We focusing on what the children are going to be doing. So make sure when you have that man killed in front of that woman that she's pregnant, we focus on future generations so they can go into captivity. Did you know, brothers and sisters, I say this as a brother who has a degree, and I'm not trying to boast myself up or anything of that sort. Did you know that for every one high school that is built, that the American government in the 1980s was building 5 prisons? Because they figure that's exactly what the minorities are going to go right into. And that is your sons and daughters going into captivity. And I now shall look and fear with longing, but you can do nothing about that because you have no power in the strength of your hand. That's what happened with us. And we know that's what happened with us. And sometimes it's a harsh thing to swallow. It's a harsh thing to sit there and accept. But the Most High left a solution. And we're going to get to that. All right? Deuteronomy 28:43, one more time. It says, the stranger that is in the midst of thee shall mount above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. I have a book here. It's entitled, written by Henry Ford, entitled The International Jew. And I want to sit there and read part of this so that way we can see why we also state via prophecy, via history, who is Israel and who's not, as stated in a Facebook post, right? It says, to make a list of lines of business controlled by the Jews, talking about the European Jews now, of the United States, will be to touch most of the vital industries of the country, those which are really vital and those which cultivate habit have been made into seem vital. The theatrical business is exclusively Jewish. Play producing, booking, theater operation are all in the hands of Jews. The motion picture industry, the sugar industry, the tobacco industry, 50% or more of the meat packing industry, over 60% of the shoe making industry. Even though the shoes were made famous by a black man named Jared Matzliger, okay, now we see who's in control of it, right? Who's in control of the Apollo, even though it was made by black people in Harlem. I'm talking about the theater. The theatrical theater is ran by who? Them. Who runs the motion picture industry? They do. This is not Israelites hating on European Jews. It's just showing who is the head and who became the tail. It says the motion picture industry, the sugar industry, the tobacco industry, 50% or more of the meatpacking industry, over 60% of the shoemaking industry, most of the musical purveying done in the country. So when Eazy-E is sitting up there with George Bush and saying you're going to be niggas with attitudes, yes, boss, that's dumb. We are did you know that NWA was established by the niggas with attitudes? That show that movement was made to counteract the conscious rap music that Public Enemy was putting out back in the 80s. You see? Because they had to sit there and try to promote the ignorance because we were groping around like at noonday like the blind gropes about in darkness. Okay, let's move on. And it says what? The musical purveying done in the country, jewelry, grain, cotton, oil, steel, magazine authorship, news distribution are in control of the people of the Jews of the United States, either alone or in association with Jews overseas. So book authorship is in control of them. So that's why that book called The Lost Tribes of Myth costs over $2,000 on Amazon, and the book talking about Horus and Set costs about $10 online because they're the ones who control the booking industry. They're the ones who control the authorship of such. That's why when my teacher, Kohen Mikael, was coming out with his book, Israelites and Jews, A Significant Difference, they tried to give him a hard time. No, you're not going to sit there and tell these Negroes who they are. You see, that's why that kind of situation is. They're the ones, it says also in there, they own the loan business. When you go to colleges and you sit there and you go to the bursar office, as it's called, being a person who's into the college world as myself, when you go to the bursar's office, which is the banks, and I would like to sit there and get a Pell Grant, and I would like to see what's going on with a scholarship. Do you know who runs that? The European Jewish people. Do you know who runs the Board of Ed? The European Jewish people. They're the ones who run that kind of organization. You see, and it's not us hitting on them. It just goes to show who became the tail and who's the head, and who loans and who borrows. You understand? We don't own nothing to nobody, to lend nothing to nobody. Sociologists say that our people here in the Western Hemisphere, our black people, quote-unquote black people, us, we contribute less than 3% of the economy of this society. The black dollar in our community, our money, goes one time around and out. The European Jews, in their united form, it goes 14 times in their neighborhoods and stay within there because the Most High smitten us with madness, blindness, and astonishment of heart to where we don't even want to sit there and be around us. Let's move on and conclude, all right? Here we go. It says in verse 45, moreover, we're going to read through. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not to the voice of the Most High, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. 47. Because thou servest not the Most High, thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. When Israel had their thing going on in history, they told the Most High, away with you, Yah, and your laws. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, whom the Most High will send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee. The Most High will bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance that shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Let's go down now into verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. Here we go. And toward the wife of his bosom, slapping her around and beat her down and still talking about, oh, girl, I didn't mean it. I still love you. I won't do it again no more. That kind of thing. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. What that nigga looking at. And toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. Well, you know, I really can't be there for my kids like that. She only had them to try to trap me. You understand what I'm saying? I don't even know if those really my kids. Who goes through that? Let's move on. We're going to go in verse 55. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege and in the straitness, wherein thine enemy shall distress thee in all thy gates. The tender and delicate women among you, which shall not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground, for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil toward her husband of her bosom. Well, if he don't love me the way that he needs to love me, I may as well just have gone out there and cheated anyway. That kind of stuff. You understand? And toward her son and toward her daughter. When you as a mother can tell your child, your father wasn't nothing, and I'm your mother and your father, that's evil. That's wickedness. When you as the man can sit there and state, well, I didn't know if you was mine, so I ain't do nothing for you. That's evil. That's wickedness. His eye shall be evil toward the wife of his bosom, toward the remnant of his children, whom he shall leave, and her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom and toward her children. What is this talking about? AKA the family structure being broken. The Negro family unit that you might read of in the Willie Lynch thing. Make sure you tell the daughters she can do what she's going to do, but you make the son sit there and be behind her and scared. Put the woman in front of the man. That kind of role. And what other culture out there among our people, unfortunately, trying to push that Egypt stuff. The black woman was here before the black man. Like, dude, we're supposed to, as men and women, get along and be one. That's what the Most High said when you go into the book of Genesis. A man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they be one flesh. So the argument of I was here first or I was here first is kind of silly. Let's come together and unite. You understand? Now, moving on, we're going to go into Deuteronomy 28, verse 62. And you shall be left few in number, whereas you are the stars of heaven for multitude, because you did not obey the voice of the Most High, your King. So it tells you why. And how can you relate that with us? How can you relate in what happened with us? We in this society only make up, as quoted, less than 15% of the people in this society. Did you know that? Yes. We are left few in number. Okay? And it says what? And it shall come to pass that as the Most High rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Most High will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught, and you shall be plucked from off the land, whether you goest in to possess it. And the Most High shall scatter you among all people, from one end of the earth even to the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, wood and stone. So we see the destruction of the family structure. We see the devastation of what happened with our spirituality because we become blind. And while all of that's happening, we were scattered from our homeland, and we were plucked off from the land in which we went in to possess it. Our people lack the knowledge of land, language, and culture. When you ask our people in debate forums, what is the true land of our people? What is the true culture of our people? And what is the true language of our people? Because if it's not the land of Israel, our true land, if Hebrew is not our true language, and if Torah is not our true culture, please let us know what it is. And don't tell me the story that some say, not to be arrogant, not to be pompous myself. Well, we belong to the human family. What? We belong to the human family. I knew that before I met you, my brother, my sister. That's not deep knowledge. So you didn't tell me nothing I didn't know. But when you're saying, like Jesse Jackson saying, I am somebody, that means you don't know who you are because you became a byword among the people where you were scattered at. We became that byword, a name in place of your true name. That's what a byword is. Black, the N-word, Negro, colored, African-American, West Indian, Jamaican, Trinidadian, Afro-Brazilian. These are the names that were imposed on us that our ancestors never even heard of. So let that be noted, please, and understood. Yes, there are Israelites in other parts of the world in the East, but I'm focusing as a brother born and raised in here on our people here, and it's not to be biased, okay? Now, once it comes down into this particular aspect right here, speaking about the whole byword thing, in the 1970s, they came out with the show, for instance, right, and concluding the subject, The Jeffersons. And in that show called The Jeffersons, there was a part in there where the guy said, well, this is The Jeffersons. It's on YouTube, actually, Season 1, Episode 7, where in the episode, Louise's uncle was there, and he was being called by George Jefferson as the Uncle Tom. Okay, so that way people who are familiar with the Jeffersons can know what subject I'm talking about. And in the show, the guy, Lionel, which is in the show, Louise's and George's son, said, well, Uncle, we the 70s now. We're now Afro-American. And the uncle in there said, I was born where we were called niggers and then colored. So if I have to sit there and wait 25 more years for us to be called Afro-American, you just got to give me time. And everyone in the audience clapped. That means you don't know who you are. You are admitting that you went from name to name to name to name. Those are bywords. Nobody else goes through that. The Ashkenazi Jews, though he said, this is the Torah, that man knows good and well he is not the true house of Judah. So he still knows his roots. He still knows his origin. Everyone else does but us. And that right there is very important to let that be known. Because like Malcolm X himself stated, he put X in the name until his true name is going to be known. Let it be known what he's talking about. Okay, let's go into Deuteronomy 28. We're going to get into now verse 65 and conclude. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Most High shall give thee there a trembling heart and filling of eyes and sorrow of mind. So who had the sorrow of mind outside of our people, like when you read even in the book of Roots? They don't leave us. We don't know what in the world is going to go on. Broken down from your power because our ancestors turned against the Most High. 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have no assurance of your life. In the morning thou shalt say, what God and what even? And at even thou shalt say, what God and what morning? For the fear of thine heart which thou shalt fear, and the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. The Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spoke unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, that right there became a particular controversial issue in discussion from before, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, about the whole issue of the ships and Egypt and the so forth and so on. So let it be noted and understood the mind of the Israelite when it came down to Egypt. Remember, the Most High, speaking himself, said, I brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Yah, the creator of heaven and earth, identified to the Israelites that Egypt is the house of bondage. So now let's get to some linguistics. Egypt is the English rendition of the Greek Aegyptos. Aegyptos is the Greek rendition of Menefer, which is Egyptian for what they call the city of Memphis among the Greeks. One more time. The term Egypt, or Aegyptos in the Greek, that is a term that's not ancient. The Greeks came up with that term. The English rendition is even younger than the Greek rendition. So the ancient people that we are calling, that we are talking about, the ancient Egyptians, in this particular case, they didn't call themselves Egyptians. They didn't call themselves Mizraim. They had their own name for themselves. So just as the Greeks called them Aegyptos, so did the Israelites have a name for that particular place of land called Mizraim. Now, what does that mean in Hebrew? Because according to some, they're saying, well, if you're a Hebrew Israelite, you should get into the Hebrew. Well, let's understand something. When you spell the Hebrew word Mizraim or Mazorahim, what are we saying? We're saying the double oppression because the Hebrew word Mazor means distress or trouble from the root word Zor. Zadeh and Resh. I wish I could show it on film, but I can't on the phone right now. What I am saying is this: the Hebrew letters Mem, Zadeh, Resh, Yod, Mem. When you sit there, and I did a video on it entitled under Moreh Yeshiah on YouTube, you can look it up. It says Deuteronomy 28, Part 1, Part 2, so forth, and getting into the linguistics of the whole matter about this whole Mizraim situation. Because the people of Israel called it Mizraim, just as much as the Israelites were called the Amu, or they was called the Apivu by the ancient Egyptians. So neither of those nations called the other nation the name that each nation had for their own nation. The people called the Egyptians, and the people called the Israelites. The Israelites called the people of the Egyptians Mizraim, and the Israelites were called by the people of the Egyptians part of the people of the Setu or the Amu inside of Egyptian records that you see in Dynasty 12 and in Dynasty 13. So let that be noted and understood. We will call minorities here. Are we the people who call ourselves that by name? No. So let this a similar kind of premise. It's a byword. It's something that somebody's calling you in place of your true name. You're an African American, and people debate today our brothers and sisters. Okay, today's the 24th of March. Earlier today, I saw one of the biggest debates about the term Africa. It was named after Hannibal. It was named after Scipio Africanus. And they went back and forth about the name African American. And America really was part of the Moors. You understand? No, America came from America Vespucci. No, it didn't. So I'm sitting back looking, not trying to take any sides. And I'm sitting there listening like, African American, hold on. I'm over 30, not to toot my own horn. But I was a child when Jesse Jackson came up with that term called African American. The term is younger than the brother you're hearing talking right now. That means that my mother, may she rest in peace, was a grown woman, and my father, may he also rest in peace, was a grown man who had a son before our people was called African Americans. So that's the name that we are sitting up here arguing about in certain colleges, as I saw earlier. Because you're smitten with blindness and you got bywords on you, you're trying to find which part do I belong to, because there's only one truth. That's why you find deep down when you see the people, well, we claim Africa, but we talk about Egypt because Egypt had the highest science. But you're still not claiming the people of Egypt, no more than the European Jew saying he's Ashkenazi, but talking with the Torah. People know good and well certain things just are not you as the people. But the Most High said he left signs of what will happen to Israel. Getting back to Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, let's cancel some things out. Suleiman, who had women transported back and forth between Turkey and Russia in cargo slave ships, is not what Deuteronomy 28:68 is talking about. Okay. The people who were taken into the slave ships were the people who, verse 64 already spoke about being scattered from their land. So wherever the slave ships was going to be taking the sons of Israel was not going to be from their land, because they was already plucked from off their land. They was already left few in number among the nations where they were dispersed. And when our ancestors were sold by the Hamites into the Atlantic slave trade, when the slave trade ended, the Hamites did not really try to claim us back because they knew who they were selling over to the Europeans. We can get into another discussion in a future time about a whole breakdown with that situation. But getting back here linguistically in Hebrew, Mizraim, Mazor in Hebrew means distress. You see that in Deuteronomy 28, verse 53, right? When you go in verse 53 in the same chapter, we see in the English, we see it says, you will eat the fruit of your own womb, the flesh of your sons and of your daughters, which the Most High your King has given you in the siege and in the distress, that your enemy shall distress you. Well, when it says distress, the Hebrew word that's there is the Hebrew word mazor. Mazor, when you add the suffix ayim, basically means mazorayim. The distress is going to be doubled. So when it says Egypt, the house of bondage, Mizraim is a name that the Israelites called that place because it's the house of their bondage. So let that be noted. Solomon, when you go to 1 Kings chapter 8, 51, in your own volition, 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 51, Solomon said, even out of the land of Egypt, even out of the iron furnace. This before Solomon went off into idolatry. His mind was still right. So the Israelites always identified that particular portion as the place of their enslavement. So some Kemetic brothers and sisters, in concluding this, will ask, well, if that's the case, if Egypt was supposed to have been so a bad place, why do you see the Israelites keep on running back and forth? Like the situation with the tribe of Judah, with Elephantine and so forth and so on. You know why? Because the same reason why we run to the employment agency today after we've seen signs saying, nigger, we will not hire you. And our mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers couldn't get a job because of the color of their skin in many places. But we, their descendants, still go to these same places, like Woolworth, which went out of business, but some of those other companies that was extremely racist, did not want to hire black people, and we'll still go in there and do that because we are the astonishment of heart among all the peoples where the Most High scattered us. Like, I can't believe it. These people still really want to bank with us and borrow with us and do business with us. We done bombed Tulsa. We done destroyed Rosewood. You understand? They still want to sit there and do that with us. Our people scattered in the islands. Do you know, if I'm not mistaken, that the people in Haiti for a while, if it's still not going on today, have to pay France a certain amount of money because of the revolution that Toussaint Louverture did? Well, if you want this land to yourselves, pay us a certain type of tax because we have been destroyed as a people. We don't have power to stand before our enemies. All of the stuff that goes down with our people, and we have no strength to stand before our enemies. We'll go on marching. They'll sit there and have Sharpton go out there and do whatever Sharpton's going to do, and as soon as he gets tax troubles and so forth and so on, okay, Miss Bell, you'll miss your husband Sean Bell by the police with the 50 bullets, but I got to move on to the next case. When the thing with Ferguson happened, there's a guy up there with a sign to show you that it says, your life shall hang in doubt before thee and have no assurance of your life. How we can apply that to us? There was a brother up there with a sign saying, in loving memory of Blake took by the police. He said he left that part Blake because next year another cop is going to shoot another brother. So I'm going to leave this sign Blake for the next name, for the next brother they're going to shoot. Our life hangs in doubt, and there's nobody, as it says in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 29, and there shall be no one to save thee. Now, so how do we get out of this situation? Let's go according to the same Holy Bible, okay? The Holy Bible. The Holy Bible, okay? Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. Let's see what it says. And we're going to conclude here, all right? It shall come to pass when all these things shall come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, meaning your high days, the situation between Solomon and the era, what happened at that time, okay? The blessing and the curse which I have set before thee. And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where the Most High thy King have driven thee. So that's why, brothers and sisters, that's why it was imperative for wherever the slave trade went, our scriptures was going to follow us. Well, that King James Bible was written during the era of the slave trade because the Most High is going to have the word published wherever the children of Israel was going to be scattered. And that is why every black person that we ever know of in history that did a major revolt were people who were saying, like Nat Turner, Moses did this with the Midianites. I can do this with the European. That influenced them. When Nat Turner was found, he was found with a copy of Joshua chapter 9 in his pocket. You understand? So these people certainly did not want us to be reading this, and it followed us wherever we went. Let's go on to Deuteronomy 30. And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether the Most High thy King have driven thee, and shalt return unto the Most High thy King, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thine soul, that then the Most High will turn thy captivity. So don't listen to some, no offense, that they say don't bash Israelites, but listen, man. Don't listen to the Israelites out there teaching any concept that is saying we ain't got to keep the laws. Well, we in captivity. They didn't keep certain holy days outside of the land, so we can't, do it out here. And we don't know about these days and times, and we don't know about doing these kind of laws in this captivity. What did the Most High through the prophet Moses say? It says, it shall return to the Most High thy King, not to the camp and the congregation, Not to the, no disrespect intended, to the elder with gray hairs. What does it say? It says, and return to the Most High, the Lord thy God, Yah Eloheka, the Lord thy power, the eternal your power, and shall obey his words according to all that I, Moses, command thee this day, house of Israel, that thou and thy children with all thine heart. It's a unity thing. Don't let any Israelite congregation tell you, well, you ain't got to bring your sons and daughters out here. We just need the men. It says you and your children with all thine heart and with all thine soul. This is not the camp of no ma'am. This is not Al Bundy and married with children. The house of Israel, we need our sisters and our young ones. What does it say? Then the Most High will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations where the Yah thy king hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out in the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yah thy power gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yah thy God will bring thee into the land that thine fathers possessed. We have an ancestry. We came from a people. We didn't just, like Jesse Jackson said, I am somebody. No, you have ancestors. You have our boat. You have a people that you came from. You have a land that you came from. You understand? That then the Most High will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possess, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. The Most High will do you good and multiply you above your fathers. There are many brothers and sisters who can explain Deuteronomy 28 much more better than I did tonight, and give you all kinds of examples, like I explained and spoke about. There's a video out called Hebrew or Black People, Hebrew or so-called Negro, or somewhere along them lines. And the person who went into that explanation on YouTube did a phenomenally very good job. And so now if we can sit there and trace it like that and show how it shows with us as a people, that means this word here also is not lying. Because everything that the Most High said came to pass that was to cause us to fall and to be erased from our memory of a people. You understand? And everywhere Israel scattered at, just like the lady was saying last week in the comments with the question and answer part, the Q&A, which we're going to get into when I conclude this particular part right here. Everywhere you go, you're going to see Israel. So we scattered all over the face of the earth, including us over here. So not to be argumentative, but a lot of times people will sit there and state in concluding this, all right? The Israelites in the West, they're not being denied by the Israelites in the East and in Africa and in other places about being Israelites in the West. But they don't like to sit there and talk about the Israelites over there in the East. We, brothers and sisters, and the brother Sal is saying that this is being in other countries, and Ustream, if I'm not misquoting the brother, or so forth and so on, Skype and so forth and so on, we are the ones who went through a whole lot more than any of our people of our house of Israel. Our scattered ones here went through a much harder time. So we have to sit back and know and understand what we're dealing with. We don't hate our brothers and sisters over there in the East. We want to welcome you, and you welcome us. You understand? Israelites have come to a newer understanding of saying that not all Israelites was brought over here to the West. We hope that that understanding is being presented more and more. So I wanted to sit there and state the reason why you might hear this brother's talking about the African-American, quote-unquote. He's talking about the Jamaican, but he's not talking about the Igbo. What about the Ashanti? What about the Bantu that they claim to be in Israel? We're not denying that our people over there, because in order for us to be Israelites here by seed and heritage, and we saying that through the slave trade, the Igbo will have to be Israel too, because those are the people taken to Jamaica. Part of the Yoruba got to be there too, because that's the people taken to South Carolina. The Ashanti got to be part of that too, because that's the people brought over to North Carolina. The Mende, as well as the Fulani, were the people brought over to the islands like Barbados up into Virginia, the state. So, yeah, we're not denying that aspect. You understand? So I just hope that this presentation is not seeming as if it's biased, but we have to sit there and focus on what we're able to connect with reason. So I hope that is understood. Understand? All right, now. Shalom. I'll turn the mic over to the brother Sal.
All right, so now we're going to take questions from the people out there. You already know the number is 646-716-7320. And for those people that just joined in or was in the middle of the class, it's called Understanding Deuteronomy 28. My special guest is Moreh Yeshiah Yisrael. We're going to take some questions from the people out there. And again, I know we had a lot of people staying about earlier, but I wanted to make sure the information was put out there before we go to the people and get questions. So let's go to the first person. Let's go to 201-623, live in air. 201-623.
Yeah, shalom. This is King. Shalom. Hello?
Shalom. Hey, shalom, brother.
Shalom. Yeah, this is how you doing, big brother Moreh Yeshiah. This is little Yeshiah. I just wanted to say, you went in and you definitely was bringing out some information, man, definitely concerning the Middle Kingdom, and I really like that you touched on that, because a lot of brothers don't understand that you had a pre-Asiatic essence before the so-called Hyksos, and a lot of brothers don't understand that we were also, if I'm correct in saying we, us as Asiatics or Israelites who are associated with Asiatics, they were actually inside of certain positions in the Kemetic politics and the Kemetic trades. They were dancers, they were cupbearers, they were doing specific positions that they have records on, they have records of. So, we was definitely there in the mix, even though people might want to try to say that we wasn't there associated by name, but, we was definitely there. And throughout the history, as you actually shown, every nation, man, benefited off of an Asiatic presence or Hebrew presence. Everybody benefited off of that. You know what I mean? And that's really unique. And I just wanted to add on to something, concerning that the Middle Kingdom. Joseph, when he was getting tribute or he was getting silver from the land of Canaan and the land of Egypt, the people wanted to actually get grain, and they didn't have any more silver, and they actually was giving their livestock and their horses to Joseph. And when you go look this up, if anybody wants to, around the Middle Kingdom or Second Intermediate Period, this is when the horses were really first introduced in the Kemet. And see, that's very significant concerning the Bible, and it shows that the Bible is actually giving in-depth details of the Middle Kingdom of the the early Second Intermediate Period to the late Second Intermediate Period. So, you did an awesome job, big brother, and we really respect you. We listening to you, and it's honor to you, man, and praise to your work, your scholarship, and your faith as well, too, man. All praises to y'all for that, man. Just wanted to say that, man, and just give respect.
Thank the Most High. Toda for that, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate the call. Again, if you're listening via your phone or Skype, all you got to do is press number 1, and we can add you into the conversation live, let your voice be heard. The number is 646-716-7320. Let's go to the next person. Let's go to 313-571. You're live there.
Hey, shalom, Sal. Shalom, Moreh Yeshiah.
Shalom, brother.
Yeah, this brother Mikael, man. You got it in, bro. You've been on a rampage lately, man. And I think you've been around me too long, man, because you had me over here cracking up with that, I'm from the human family. That is like the stupidest stuff. And when people say that, I just stop talking to them. You know what I'm saying? Real talk, man. But this was an outstanding show. And I don't know, man. It's been a fire lit up under you, Ak. I don't know if everybody know, but all praise to the Most High. But Yeshiah and myself did a little compilation. It was basically him teaching. We did a little compilation the other day leading up to this show called Deuteronomy 28. You can find it on Director Alvin's YouTube page, Director Alvin. And I've been getting a lot of responses for that, brother. Telling me, man, that brother be going in. I'm like, yeah, man, it's time for games. It's over with. So, yeah, brother, you touched on so much stuff. It was perfect. I really don't even got nothing to ask you, but I did want to add a little something to what you said. it's funny things, man, when you really start to pay attention to this Holy Bible. We're in the information age now, and a lot of our people are getting knowledge. I wouldn't say wise, because wisdom is the proper application of knowledge, and a lot of our people just learning stuff. You know, that just means know something. That's all knowledge is. And when it's misplaced, it's just as equal to being a dummy. So I don't call us wise, but I would say it's a lot of people learning things. And so they think they outgrowing the scriptures, but what they don't understand is there's things in these scriptures that, Yeshaya, we've been talking about it, we've been putting it forth, that people just can't grasp. I mean, it's thousands of years literally ahead of its time. And you was talking about the Ashkenazi Jews earlier, and it's for anybody that's been listening to him. And if you're not convinced after his show, I don't know really what's going to convince you, but just to kind of add to it, I want to show you just two little funny things, and I'll be out y'all here. All you got to do is read Genesis chapter 10, verse 2 through 3, and it literally named the father of the Ashkenazi Jews, and his name was Ashkenaz, like the brother said earlier. He was from Japhet. It's a Gentile. So how could the people call themselves Jewish when even the slightest Bible reader knows that Jews are quote-unquote Semitic, which means come out of Shem, Shemites. Abraham and all them came out of Shem. Ashkenaz came out of Japhet. So that just tell you common sense something don't add up. And so, we did a video shooting shots at this dude, this counterfeit rabbi called himself Asher. He's been on Debate Talk for You before. Brother Zadok smacked him up. But, we've been wanting to get a shot at him. So we made this video, and there's two things I want to point out. Now, this is funny. I want y'all to really pay attention. I want to go to Leviticus chapter 13 real quick. Now, this don't seem like something real small, but until you sit there and think about it. Leviticus chapter 13. And it says, pardon me. Okay. Leviticus 13, and I'm going to read verse 29. And I want y'all to see if y'all teach this. Tell me if this makes any sense. Now, we know that a lot of Ashkenazis, or Germans, as the brother Moreh Yeshiah pointed out earlier, they have one quality that we don't have as a regular, and that is German people, it's not irregular for them to grow blonde hair. I want everybody to think about that. You see a lot of German people with blonde hair. So being that a lot of these Jewish people come from that bloodline, you see a lot of quote-unquote Jewish people with blonde hair. Well, this Bible has a science in it and ways that the Most High would peep out diseases and things like that so he could separate us and quarantine us so we wouldn't get the rest of the camp sick. Now, I want y'all to tell me if this is possible if this was a German that looked like them. Leviticus chapter 13, verse 29. I want y'all to listen to this. It reads, this is for a head plague. It says, if a man or a woman have a plague upon the head or beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it a yellow thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scale, and even a leprosy upon the head and the beard. Did y'all just hear that? Do y'all know what a yellow hair is? That's blonde hair. So I want to know, if a man had this disease, how could the priest spot it if you was born with blonde hair? So you would just defile the whole camp. That's because the Israelites wasn't born with blonde hair. That's just look, and then it say a blonde thin hair. All the Europeans' hair are blonde and thin. We had woolly hair. So I just want y'all to pay attention to little stuff, how they could not, I don't care how they tried to rewrite this. It's so much stuff in here that the Most High wouldn't let them try to hide this stuff. They can't. I got one more spot I want to go to, something you brought up earlier, Yeshaya. I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 42, and I'm through. Isaiah chapter 42. You was talking about the brothers being locked up in prison. So let's look at one of the identifications the Most High said how you can spot Israel after he been scattered. Isaiah chapter 42 and verse 22. And it says, but this, it says, the Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. Talking about the Israelites. They are all of them snared in holes. That means trapped. And they are hid in prison houses.
They are for a prey and none delivered. Do you know I just checked the statistic a few weeks ago, and it say it's less than 1,000 Jewish prisoners in the United States. Less than 1,000. It's more than that on one deck in the county of Israelites, Negroes. It's more than, man, it's 1,000 of them in one cell. So don't none of the prophecies match them. Do none of the physical attributes match them. Do none of the historical attributes match them. They only point to us. So I just want to say to Rabbi Asher, I hope you see that video. Get back at us if you dare. And any other people out there that's part of the crafty council trying to take away the glory of the real Hebrew Israelites, I'm letting y'all know we got a squad, a hit squad put together, and we killing and crushing all lies. And I got to give a shout-out to my people, Walls of Jericho. We will start back next month. Debate Talk for You. We 2-0 in the debate scene against Carver Radio. And, man, these lions get down over here. Judah, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Hey, that was Brother Mikael Ben Israel. Once again, you know the number, 646-716-7320. Again, we have a lot more time, maybe about 30 minutes more in the air. Well, actually less than 30 minutes in the air. If you guys have any questions or comments, this is your time. Just press number 1, and we can add you to the conversation. Again, the show is archived. For those new listeners out there, you can always go back and check it out. Go to www.blogtalkradio.com/debate talk for you. If you're listening via phone, via Skype, press number 1, and we can add you in the conversation. I don't see anybody else pressing number 1. So, Moreh Yisrael, if you want to say some last words with the people, you can.
Okay. I wouldn't mind giving thanks to the Father. I want to read something, and I'm going to just read straight through, okay? And if anybody presses 1 or has a question or comment, just let me know so I know to stop, all right, brother?
Got you.
Hello?
I got you.
All right,
I got you, brother.
The besiegement of our people, strong several times, from the ancients to the modern time. Nations, Canaan, Canaanites, Philistines, Assyrians, Babylonians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Ethiopians, Egyptians, Moabites, Edomites, and Americans. The Babylonians raided the city of Jerusalem and laid a siege against it, and our people were taken captive by them. The siege, on the other hand, led by the Assyrians of the northern tribes, was for a much shorter time, and the capital fell, though harder, from the Assyrian king Tiglath-Pileser to Sargon II. The Persians come into power, as we went into before, with Cyrus defeating the Nabonidus of Babylon and annexing that place. In the year 550 BCE, Cyrus defeated Astyages of the Medes, and we see in history that the Medes and the Persians were one empire, especially by the time they came in contact with the house of Israel. Daniel 7, verse 5, the beard that stood up on one side representing the Medo-Persian Empire. The next people come into contact with Israel is the Greeks, the first Europeans to set foot in reference with the Hebrews. Alexander, king of the Greeks, had a successor named Seleucus, and thus we see the Seleucids. Antiochus III captured Jerusalem in 198 BCE. Antiochus IV captured Jerusalem in 168 BCE. And thus we see the Maccabean revolt from 168 to 142 BCE. Jerusalem was besieged again in 131 BCE. The Maccabees fought the Greeks and the Romans both tooth and nail. And unfortunately, their kingdom fell and they were scattered among the different nations. Rome defeated Greece, as we went over before, 146 BCE. Pompey of Rome captured Jerusalem, 63 BCE. Edomites, that is to say the Idumean people of that time, were anticipating their move to the land of Israel. 66 AD to 70 AD, bloody war in which thousands of Israelites were slain. Many Israelites were crucified, according to the historian Josephus. General Vespasian and his son Titus razed the city of Jerusalem and burnt it to the ground. Razed, R-A-Z-E-D. It should be noted that Jerusalem was the capital and that the other cities were destroyed quicker. Historians attempt to state that this time Israelites went to Europe and settled colonies. This, however, not being the case. Israelites, as we went over before, were used to going into where they came from, out of Sumeria and out of African places where they had a sense of security indirectly. We go into the book of the Apocrypha, 2 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 2, and says, the brethren, the Jews, the tribe of Judah, that be at Jerusalem in the land of Judea, Wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace. God be gracious unto you, and remember his covenant that he made with Abraham, with Isaac, and Jacob, his faithful servants. Since the days of Solomon, king of Israel, we see the course currents between Israel and many African societies. It is known throughout archaeologists' world that many state that Solomon had realms in gold that we see in what they call Zimbabwe, which was invaded by the other European nations. Why would the Israelites then go to Europe when an enemy stronger than them was coming from the north attacking them? That will not make much sense. When the Israelites were being scattered out of their land, we see what is referred to in present day, the religion of Judaism, coming into effect. It came into effect after the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. So we see the temples of who they call Hillel and Akiba and so forth and so on, and the uses of what they refer to as the Talmud. This being after the tribes of Israel were scattered from out of their land. Also, history shows that Hadrian tried to have his foothold in not having the people go back to their land. When the Israelites fled out of their land, we see that they established themselves as many states among several places in what we call Western Africa, and the prophecies followed them. The great empires that the Israelites established were some of them by name Songhai, Zigzag, Nufa, Oyo, etc. Oyo, Oyo, etc. The great empires that the Israelites set up there came into zenith when the Israelites did settle there and fell when the Ishmaelites / Arabs and Europeans / Caucasians came in. In the 15th century, the Portuguese set off the slave trade in the 1441 AD. As early as 1501, according to Daniel P. Mannix in his book Black Cargoes, black people were seen in Haiti as slaves. When Cristobal Colon, a.k.a. Christopher Columbus, set sail in 1492, there were black people being transported to Europe at 1,000 yearly as slaves. In 1646, let's go in now. In 1646, black people were brought to Manhattan of today as slaves. Yes, they were slaves in the borough of Manhattan in New York City in 1646. And now we see 1646 as an area code for business places in Manhattan. Now, let's move on. The slave trade in Jamaica became rife in the middle of the 17th century. The English, the Spanish, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French, the Danes, and the Irish all had their hand in the enslavement of our ancestors. The English, let's get into the islands now. The English controlled Jamaica, Bahamas, Antigua, St. Kitts, Barbuda, Nevis, Montserrat, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados, Trinidad, which was formerly owned by the Spanish, Tobago, and what they call the Virgin Islands or Tortola. The French, let's go in, controlled Guadeloupe and Martinique, as well as part of what we call St. Martin. The Spanish controlled Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Santo Domingo. The Dutch controlled St. Martin, St. Corcao, and St. Eustatius. The Danes controlled St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. The captive markets in South America, neither were closed. The Portuguese controlled Brazil. The Spanish controlled Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Chile, Argentina. The English controlled what we call now Guyana. In Central America, the Spanish controlled what we call Mexico or Mexico, Panama or Panama, and Honduras or Honduras. The French controlled Canada and the lower Midwestern portion of the United States of today until they were defeated in what they call the French-American War. The Spanish controlled at that time Texas, Florida, because Florida is a Spanish word, California, Nevada, and what we call New Mexico. Most of our people captured out of Western Africa and brought to the Western Hemisphere came from the people known as the Ewe, E-W-E, the Igbo, the Ba'afada, the Bakongo, the Wolof, the Bambara, the Seire, the Ibibio, and the Arada peoples. Other, as they say, highly advanced tribes as the Mandikas, the Ashanti, the Fulani, the Dahomey, really fell into the Europeans' hands. If this is to be the case, that means there was certainly more than 15 million brought from 1440 to 1888 as captives to the Western Hemisphere. Yes, the last slave ship to go to Brazil was in 1888. Okay? In Ghana alone, there was over 35 slave-holding houses. The fact that the Ashanti live in Ghana, as do the Fanti people,
if most of the captives were not from those tribes, we see that the 35 slaveholding houses shows that the numbers that we're given by many people is not accurate, and the number is much more higher taken into captivity. Taking it now to the United States. Massachusetts was the first state to recognize slavery legally in the year 1641, then Connecticut in 1650, then Virginia in 1661, then Maryland in 1663, then New York and New Jersey, here we go, Brooklyn, Trenton in 1664, South Carolina, Columbia area, 1682, Rhode Island and Pennsylvania, your Philadelphian brothers and sisters, in the year 1700, North Carolina in 1715, and Georgia. These dates are when slavery was given legal status, not when our people were treated there as captives. There were captives in these places prior to the state recognizing it legally. For instance, Pennsylvania, according to Hugh Thomas, in his book entitled The Slave Trade, is first recorded as 150 of our people, black people, imported to cut trees and build houses in 1684, houses built where they dwelt not. Here we go. And that was years before it was found, and that was 3 years after it was founded as a colony. So now we got to ask, are there records of other colonies in North America as having slavery before the colony recognized it? So we can't always go by the American records of their records, but if we do have and able to go by to a certain extent means that they did not sit there and tell you the whole accurate truth of the matter. So just wanted to conclude. I wanted to do that in the whole subject, but time a lot, when you shopping for food or shopping for books, you look at the shopping cart and put certain things to the side. I wasn't able to get into the whole presentation as I wanted to, but most I be blessed. Shalom.
You don't want to miss the best debate show via internet? Debate Talk Radio. Check out the schedule for Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. To check out the archives, go to www.blogtalkradio.com/debate talk 4 and the letter U. You can listen via phone or via Skype by dialing that number 646-716-7320. Again, that's 646-716-7320. You can also go to iTunes to the podcast section. Just type in the search box Debate Talk 4 and letter U, and you'll see the show pop up absolutely free. You check out season 1 all the way up to the present season and enjoy the entire show. So keep it locked on Debate Talk Radio. Check us out.